What is up, everybody? Welcome to Stat Diggers. We're going to give an early look for UFC Vegas 40. And guess what? We have a stacked card, a phenomenal main event. I never thought we'd get a main event this great this year, but here we are with Norma Dumont going against Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd was supposed to fight Macy Chiasson a couple weeks ago, had a bad weight cut, missed weight by a pound. Macy declined the fight, and she now steps in on short notice for Holly Holm to fight Norma Dumont in one of the biggest and baddest main events of the year. And I'm here, as always, with Uncle Weezy, everybody's favorite uncle, Uncle Weezy. Are you looking forward to this phenomenal card?
I'm looking forward to any opportunity we can to find some spots, make a little bit of money. This card, I'm not going to be looking to the fights, as much. But you know what? Any card where we place winning bets and make some money is a good card. This is an opportunity to do that. That's your Uncle Weezy being diplomatic right there, Brady. So yeah, but let's try to find some spots for our viewers here, and there could be a couple that we're interested in.
Dude, yeah, we always find spots, right? Like last week, we found some spots for sure. I remember the Ontiveros-Steve Garcia fight was, a very sketchy one, but we knew for sure that the fight doesn't go to decision was one that we really did like there. So we'll do a quick recap of last night. Pretty solid night for me. Went 3-2 in the bets. The three bets that I did cash were my biggest ones, all 2-unit plays. The first one was Gutierrez parlayed with Romanov. Minus 144, 2 units on that. Gutierrez fight was a little bit closer than I'd like. Went to split decision, but got it done regardless there. And then I also had 2 units on Romanov. It was supposed to be a parlay with Hawes. Hawes obviously fell out, and it was just a straight bet on Romanov minus 400. So that cashed as well. And then also Charlie Ontiveros versus Steve Garcia. Fight doesn't go to decision. 2 units on that. Hit pretty easily there. And then those are the 3 that hit. The 2 that lost were just half unit sprinkles on Nicolau by submission. Didn't really get many opportunities there. And then Gooden versus Brown fight did not start round 3, half a unit there. Plus 100. Didn't really get many opportunities there. I'm guessing the first round, Brown hurt Gooden really bad. Just didn't really try to follow up. Was kind of content on staying on the outside. But all in all, good night. Plus 1.89 units. Nice to bounce back from last week after the main event fiasco where it did go to decision. Looking forward to keep the momentum rolling into UFC Vegas 40. I do have one bet already, but yeah, last night's card was actually really good. Like I crapped on the card all week, and for a really good reason. But I think that last night's card definitely delivered. I enjoyed, pretty much every single matchup on the fight card. I know it was only 9 fights, but it was a fun card. So can't complain. Made some money. I got second on DraftKings as well. I thought I was going to get first, but somebody stacked Rosa and Jackson in the same lineup and took down first solo. So it's got second place. So overall, it's a good card. I enjoyed it, made some money, and looking forward to bounce back right away. Oh, the best part was it ended early, so I was able to get really ahead for this week as well. So, Uncle Weezy, how'd you enjoy the card last night, and how'd your night go overall?
Yeah, there were really some great fights. That Randy Brown Gooden fight was a total war. I really enjoyed watching that one. And boy, Gooden, what a chin on that dude. Is that dude tough or what, man? No wonder he's only been finished once in 7 losses, because that dude is incredibly tough. And then I had Mackenzie Dern by submission in that final fight. And when she got that takedown in the second, oh man, I really thought she was going to bank that sub. And and then almost at the end of the 4th as well. But for me, I only had, this was what might have been weak for me, because early in the week, I only had 2 bets. It was a 3-unit bet on the Ontiveros Garcia fight doesn't go to decision. And I had 1.7 units on the Godinez money line against Hughes. And then what happened was Hughes got COVID, or someone in her corner got COVID. So they gave her a replacement fight, and the line opened up too wide, in my opinion. I wound up putting a half unit on Juarez. So I lost there, and then I had a unit on Dern by submission. That lost. I actually broke completely even. Not a great night. Won a little money in DFS because I had a really good cash lineup. But other than that, ready to move on to this card. It is sketchy, dude. It's sketchy, but you know what? It doesn't matter. There's opportunities in all fights, and especially some of these lower level fights, especially when you delve into the tape study. There are going to be some spots. We're going to have to look at Stella Nunes here, look at how she's performed prior to the UFC. We got Erick the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez making his debut against a wily veteran in Jim Miller. So we're going to have to, really dig into the tape on some of these people and figure out what we can find in terms of opportunities.
Yep, for sure. Looking forward to a kind of a tricky card. Like we said, only one spot or two spots stick out to me so far. But after going through the numbers with you, hopefully more does stick out. And then we'll talk about some props along the way. What I will say about the main event is I actually gained a lot of respect for both Dern and Rodriguez, because Dern got Rodriguez down to the mat like, what, 2 or 3 times. And, I respect Rodriguez a lot more because she survived Dern on the mat with her. And nobody expected that, right? We thought that if Dern got one takedown, it'd be over shortly after, but she was able to somehow survive. But yep, looking forward to see what Rodriguez does next in Dern as well. But yeah, looking forward to this card here. We have a fun one in Dumont going against Aspen Ladd. So do you want to shout out the chat real quick, and then we'll get into it. If you all can hit the like on the video, subscribe to Pub Sports if you have not already. Recently got 11K subs. Appreciate you all, you guys out there. We have Keith in the chat saying, what's up? What is up, Keith? We have Gaming Wolf in the chat. We have Monk saying, yo, 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 what is up, Monk? We have Ahmed in the chat as well. What's up, Ahmed? I saw the General in here as well. What's up, General? Taking notes as always. Gramps, what's up, Gramps? Irregardless as well. Cody in the chat. You guys are killing it already. We just started, and a ton of people in here already. Appreciate you guys. If you all can hit the like button, that'd be much appreciated. Jay, Roy, all you guys, thank you so much. Mohammed as well. Andrew, the first one in here. Saying, let's make that money. Is Ladd going to actually fight, or is she going to the buffet again? Well, good thing for Ladd is this fight will be at 145. So she better make weight, right? She better have no problems. So Dono, before we start, thank you guys. Great weekend, almost perfect night between MMA and boxing, in no small part to shows like this. Incredible content, gentlemen. Keep it up. Appreciate that a ton, Jay. Appreciate the Dono. Appreciate you supporting. And yeah, the boxing fight was phenomenal. Like one of the best boxing fights I've ever watched. Fury Wilder. That was an absolute war. Weezy, were you able to catch Fury Wilder?
I did not. After I was, had to get ready for the show, man. So it was right back to business after that, after I was done watching the fight. So, and also caught the finale of Squid Games last night too. So that, between all that stuff, I just couldn't even watch the fight, but I heard all about it.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Philip as well. Benjamin, appreciate y'all hanging out. Drew as well. All right, so I say we get into it here, and let's start with the very first fight of the night. And so we've been talking about it, right? Like the very first fight of the night, we've been cashing a lot on these violence props, right? Like a lot of these first fight of the nights, they seem to be ending inside the distance. But this one, maybe it does, but I'm not so sure it does. Like a Charlie Ontiveros, a Steve Garcia, like a Philip Rowe, a Ryan Koski. This is a fight where I very well could see it going the distance, which is weird because we've been seeing so many finishes in these first fights. But we have Ariana Carnelossi going against Stella Nunes, the newcomer. We have Carnelossi, who is 28 years old, 5'2" with a 61-inch reach. Nunes, she is 29 years old, 5'4". We're not sure on her reach, but you got to imagine it's more than 61 inches. So Carnelossi, she did make her UFC debut against Angela Hill, I believe. She lost by it was a TKO, I think it was a cut stoppage, and then she beat Liang Na in a TKO win. One of them, I'll be honest, one of the most exciting fights of the year, that Liang Na versus Carnelossi fight. I had, think the under, or the fight doesn't go to decision. Cannot wait to see Liang Na back in the cage, back in action. She is a very exciting fighter, but that was a great fight. I believe it was UFC 261, very first fight with the fans back. That was awesome. As far as Stella Nunes, she's going to be making her UFC debut. She has a loss over Angela Lee. I went and watched that fight expecting it to be, the Angela Lee we know, but no, it was a different Angela Lee. And she got taken down multiple times. And I guess that's the problem with Nunes, is her takedown defense is very questionable. I believe she has a Muay Thai background. I think she's 50-4 in Muay Thai fights. So she's decent, but the takedown defense does need some work. With that said, we have not seen her in quite some time. I think it's going to be about 3 years since we have seen Nunes here. So yeah, interesting fight. Curious to hear your thoughts on it, Weezy. We have Nunes 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Carnelossi 4-1 as well. What do you got for us here?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that Na Liang fight too, because that was UFC 261. It was the first fight on the card, and I remember having a big bet on the fight doesn't go to decision, and before the fight starting saying, why didn't I double or triple max bet this? Because there's no way that this fight is going to go to decision, man. Na Liang, it was just, she goes all out for about 4 minutes, and then the gas tank is empty. And that had to be one of the best fights of the year, simply because it was the first fight with a crowd in months, and they were going ballistic. And Carnelossi got 3 reverses in that fight. Now Liang shot like 5 takedowns just in the first round. I mean, they were going back and forth, and it was awesome. So, yeah, hopefully we see some kind of return to that style of a fight here. But I don't know, man. Let's just go through the numbers here. First of all, they're a year apart. Nunes 2 inches taller, supposedly, but we don't know what the reach disadvantage is. Carnelossi's going to have twice as many fights, but she actually has less cage time. Carnelossi, 15 fights, only 65 minutes of cage time, and a 4.33 minute average fight time. So she's definitely a finisher. Nunes, though, in 8 fights, we got 89 minutes of cage time, so an 11-minute average fight time. And then if we look at the length of the pro career, why does Stella Nunes only have 8 fights in an 11-year career? That's weird. While we see Carnelossi with a better number of 15 fights in a 7-year career. So, Carnelossi definitely with the experience advantage. Carnelossi definitely with the finishing advantage here, is she has a 77% finish rate as a pro. That's really high for any women's fighter. That's I think we're talking 10 out of 13 finishes. That what that is? So 1 by submission and 9 by knockout. So definitely she's getting the job done inside the distance. And she's been finished in both of her losses. And Estela Nunes has been finished in her only loss. But Nunes has only finished 2 of her 6 pro wins. But this could be a sneaky spot for an under because it's a women's fight. Women's fights don't finish as often as men's fights do. And both of these ladies have been finished in 100% of their losses. So this could potentially be a sneaky spot where, because, these bookies usually will price the over-unders based on the division and the finish rate for women, this might be one we can finally, get a little bit of value. We look at Carnelossi, there's serious volume in her fights. 11.85 significant strikes offered per minute, 11.47 offered against her. Nothing spectacular in the numbers. You mentioned that Nunes is somebody that has a little bit of trouble with the ground game. Well, Ariana Carnelossi has only attempted 1 takedown in 2 fights, and that was against Angela Hill, somebody that Angela Hill's opponents try to take her down over and over and over again because they know she's a good striker. They want to get her to where she isn't as weak. So the fact that Carnelossi only attempted 1 takedown against a striker like Hill goes to show you that we probably won't see a wrestling-heavy game plan from Ariana Carnelossi, which means that this could be a stand-up war. And you mentioned Nunes with a serious Muay Thai background. This could be one where they kind of stand in the middle of the cage until somebody falls. And, both of these girls, especially Carnelossi, man, she's bricked up. She is seriously strong. And she's got pipes on her what is she, 5'2"? That's on a good day. That's probably in heels, So, this is going to be, I could see this finishing inside the distance. I mean, what did you see in Nunes's tape? I mean, is there anything to suggest, that this one gets done inside the distance here?
Yeah, I think if there is a finish, actually, it's going to come from the Carnelossi side. I saw Nunes. She had like a nice head kick knockout in one of the fights I saw, but she doesn't really strike me as like a vicious finisher. I think she has like a 29% knockout rate. I think that's maybe 2 knockouts, 2 or 3 knockouts on her entire record. Yeah. And Carnelossi, she is very tough. So if there is a finish, I'm kind of more leaning towards the Carnelossi side. But yeah, this is a really weird fight because the last time we saw Nunes fight was 3 years and 2 months ago. And I'm not sure why she has not fought since then. But, last time she fought, she was around 26 years old. We got to expect a lot of improvements. I checked out her Instagram. She looks very good there. So if she does come in here and, maybe patch up that takedown defense a little bit, which, like you said, Weezy, maybe she doesn't even need to. I mean, Carnelossi, I went through her fights and she doesn't really go for takedowns. The only time she went for a takedown was when she's picking up fighters and just slamming them with like no technique. Just using her pure strength. And I don't know if that's going to work here. I think it's going to be a pretty close fight. I know both fighters are pretty solid strikers. I think Carnelossi has more power, but with that power, Carnelossi is very hittable as well. So it's a tough fight. I'm kind of leaning towards the potential improvements in Nunes. I'm not as confident in it, but I'll probably take her as a pick, but I don't know if I'll bet it, man. It's a tough fight to call. It's either the power of Carnelossi, maybe Carnelossi can get a finish, or maybe the striking of Nunes, because I do feel like Carnelossi is very, very hittable. She has no striking defense. She's very tough, but man, she's very hittable there. So I'm kind of leaning with the dog here on the first fight of the night. We do see that she is opened up as a plus 150 dog. She's now plus 142. Carnelossi opened up minus 175. She is currently minus 162. And like you said, both fighters have never lost by decision. All of their losses do come inside the distance. We see the over 2.5 rounds is juiced at minus 225, and the under 2.5 rounds is plus 185. You never know. I mean, maybe the streak of the first fight of the night finishing could very well continue, right? But yeah, any thoughts on the line? Any thoughts on the under 2.5 plus 185?
Well, I didn't even know we had a prop on this yet. I just refreshed my screen because like it looks like some of them are just starting to trickle in now. And I was talking, we like it when 100% of the losses of the two combatants, are inside the distance. Now you're getting plus 185 for the under 2.5. And Carnelossi is a good finisher. And the other thing that we can talk about is since Nunes hasn't fought in so long and she's making her UFC debut, we could see an adrenaline dump after the first round. And look, that first round of the Carnelossi-Liang fight, the pace of that was absolutely bonkers. Now, maybe it was just because the crowd was there and it was so electric and it was such a great round, but that was a great pace that was kept up for 5 minutes. And you could tell Liang gassed, but Carnelossi still had a full tank, and that's when she just went in there and finished her ass quick. So, if Nunes has some cage rust, if she has an adrenaline dump, we could see a second round finish from Carnelossi here. So, plus 185 is intriguing.
Yeah, and on the flip side, right, like maybe Nunes has made a ton of improvements, and with how hittable Carnelossi is, maybe you could see like a head kick knockout or something like that. Because Nunes, her striking's good, the power doesn't really look there, but again, like we're watching fights from 3, 4, 5 years ago. So, and she was 26, she's 29 now. So, if anything, I think the under could very well be a look there, especially at plus 185. I don't hate that.
Yeah, maybe a little sprinkle. You can put 0.4 units on it or something like that. And then you're going to get damn close to a full unit back. So that's not bad.
Cameron's saying, "What's up, guys? Thanks for doing this. Bookies are scared shitless. They sure are. They're watching stat diggers right now. Scared to put the lines out." Jay's saying dog or pass. Yeah, I wouldn't bet Carnelossi as a favorite, to be honest. Probably dog or pass, if anything, but I'm not too interested in betting this from a side perspective. Probably a prop perspective, if anything. So I say we can move on, though, to the next fight, and we do have one that should be pretty fun. I mean, the return of Brandon Davis going against Dana Baccarel, somebody that's made me a lot of money in the past couple fights. We have Dana Baccarel, who is 32 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. Brandon Davis, 31 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. So Davis is going to be 1 year younger. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage as well. This guy is huge for the division. As far as Dana Baccarel, he made his UFC debut. I think it was against Alatang Lee. Lost by decision there in a fight where he actually outlanded him like 84 to like 30 something and lost the decision. I personally scored it 2-1 for Dana. In the third round, Alatang was able to take him down 3 times, control him for about 3 minutes in that third round, ultimately win the third. But I really did think Dana did enough to get those first 2. But regardless, lost a decision against Alatang Lee. After that, comes out, knocks out 42-year-old Guido Canetti. After that, knocks out Kevin Natividad. Cashed on both of those there. As far as Brandon Davis, I've not seen him in a while. His last loss in the UFC was against Giga Chikadze and Uncle Weezy. You're going to get into a little bit more of who he's faced in the UFC, and it's pretty eye-opening who he's faced as well once you get into that. And then he has 4 wins outside of the UFC, a decision win, a submission win, a decision win, and a knockout win. And now he is back. He's back here taking on Dana Baccarel. So Uncle Weezy, what's sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, the first thing that stuck out to me is how crazy some of the names of these dudes that Dana Baccarel has fought in the past. And there's somebody named Suckbold Sadnam Dorj that he fought. And then before that, he fought a name that's like got to be about 30 letters long. It's Bas Anku Damian Purev. I mean, obviously he was fighting on the Asian regional scene. He's Mongolian before he got here. But, the loss to Alatang was a great back and forth fight, and they both had their moments in that fight. And then he's really dominated the guys that you would expect him to dominate. First round knockout over Canetti, first round knockout over Natividad, and then now we've got Brandon Davis, who's going to be absolutely huge for this division. And Brandon Davis, in his own right, now he got cut from the UFC. So his last UFC fight was against Giga Chikadze. And then after the Chikadze fight, he got cut. And then he went to Gulf Coast MMA to fight 4 straight fights. He had a win over 5-3 Brad Kelly, a win over 4-0 Jonathan Island, a win over 24-29 Ray Trujillo, and a win over 24-11 Josh Huber. 2 of those wins were by decision. 2 of those wins were by finish. And now he's back. So, Batgarel, we know that he's got a ton of power in his hands, especially for a bantamweight. And if we look at the striking stats that are on the screen here, we're going to see some really fantastic numbers that jump off the page when it comes to Danaa Batgarel. 5.78 significant strikes landed a minute, only 2.65 absorbed. He's landing more than 3 significant strikes per minute more than his opponents. His accuracy is not really there at 39.21%, but that's not a problem when you're scoring a knockdown on 1.83% of the significant strikes that you're landing. That's a 1.59 knockdowns per 15 minutes for Danaa Batgarel. And we've seen Brandon Davis get knocked down once in the UFC. Davis landing 4.65 significant strikes a minute, absorbing 4.33. So he's actually landing more than he absorbs. And he's fought some really tough guys in the UFC, and he's got a losing record of 3-5. So even though he's got a losing record, we're actually seeing him be fairly efficient on the feet, Brady. 61% striking defense for Batgarel, even better than 61% for Brandon Davis, which is even better than Batgarel's, which is at 58.33%. So Batgarel actually comes from a wrestling background, if I'm not mistaken, but he's only attempted 1 takedown in 3 fights, while Brandon Davis has attempted 11 takedowns in 8 fights. But if you look at Brandon Davis's career, you'll see that 7 of those takedown attempts came in the Giga Chikadze fight, which is what you would expect. Of course, you're going to try to take down Chikadze. You don't want to stand with him. He's too good there. But, in the 7 fights that weren't the Chikadze fight, he's only got 4 takedown attempts. So, I think that we can expect this one to take place on the feet. Brandon Davis is going to be the much longer, much taller guy, but it's going to be Batgarel with the power and the timing. I think that's going to make a big difference here. However, what needs to be looked at here is the strength of schedule, Brady. Batgarel does not have any impressive wins thus far. I mean, unless you count the Suckbold Sadnam Norge win prior to the UFC, or the High Show T win, his wins were over Kevin Natividad and Guido Canetti, who I believe now is finally getting Social Security and he can sit back and enjoy his retirement. So Brandon Davis, though, if I look at the advanced stats here and we look at the guys that Brandon Davis has lost to, okay, we've got a loss to start his UFC career out to a 2-5 Kyle Bochniak. Then after that, he loses to 6-3 Enrique Barzola. After that, they gave him Zabit, 6-0. After that, he got Randy Costa and beat him. And then after that, he gets a 6-2 Kyung Ho Kang. And after that, he gets a 7-1 Giga Chikadze. So, 4 out of this last guy's 5 fights have come against guys with a combined UFC record of 25 wins and 6 losses.
Wow.
So, we do know that Brandon Davis has been, working on the regional scene for the last 4 fights, beating guys that are not nearly as good as Danaa Batgarel. But we do know that the reason that he got cut was because he was losing to guys, absolute studs like Chikadze and Hokang. And guess what? He lost to Chikadze and Hokang both by split decision.
Close fight.
So he's just not losing to these guys. These are close fights. Brandon Davis has fought much better competition than Danaa Batgarel. And so if you're on the Brandon Davis side, you can hang your hat on the following things here. You can hang your hat on the fact that he's going to be the bigger, longer dude. You can hang your hat on the fact that he's got twice as many pro fights and more than twice as much minutes in the pro cage. He's got 5 more UFC fights than Danaa Batgarel. He's an equal opportunity finisher by sub and knockout, 29% by knockout, 29% by sub. And he's fought the much better brand of competition. But if you're on the Batgarel side, you're looking at this, and rightfully so, Brady, is that this guy should just be flat out way better on the feet. Way more power, just way more dangerous. He's going to have to find a way to close the distance, which is something that he wouldn't have had to do against Natividad and Kennedy and Alateng as much as he will against somebody that's as big as Brandon Davis. But that power that Batgarel brings is a big deal. And also, we can look at Brandon Davis's takedown defense, only 56%, and Batgarel's takedown defense only at 57%. So if either one of these guys doesn't like how it's going on the feet, they might be able to shoot takedowns and get it to the ground. So it's a very interesting stylistic matchup. I think you just look at how well Batgarel has been fighting lately, and you say, oh, and Davis is coming off some regional scene wins. I think when you dig a little bit deeper, this might be a little bit closer than people expect.
Yeah, this is such a close fight for me because you take a look at Danon. I love the guy. He hits very, very hard, but on the Davis side, he's very tough. He's a very tough guy. His chin is very good. He's never been knocked out. He has been knocked down before. I believe he was knocked down by Kong in that fight. But yeah, he's very tough. He can take a shot for sure. And I like how he mixes it up. He mixes it up his wrestling pretty good. He attempted a ton of takedowns against Giga Chikadze. What you said, yeah, 3 for 7 were takedowns against Giga Chikadze in a very, very close fight that went to split decision. Yeah, we did see in Danaz's fight against Alateng Haley, who Alateng Haley is a phenomenal wrestler, right? I don't think that Brandon Davis has the same caliber wrestling as an Alateng Haley, but we did see that Alateng Haley was able to get him down 3 times in that fight, and he was able to control him a lot in that third round. I feel like Brandon Davis could potentially mix in takedowns here because when guys have been trying to take down Danaz, they've been successful in doing so thus far. It's a close fight. I think on the feet, it's going to be somewhat close. I do got to favor Danaz as well, but taking a look at the odds, I kind of disagree with him. I think this is a very, very, very close fight. Like, I don't really, maybe he can, but I don't really see Danaz knocking out Davis. I mean, it's possible, but this is not a 50-year-old Guido Canetti. This is not Kevin Natividad, who probably doesn't belong in the UFC. This is Brandon Davis, who, again, has fought some very, very good competition. So yeah, taking a look at the line, we do see that Danaz actually opened up as a minus 300 favorite. He is now down to minus 190. Brandon Davis opened up plus 250. He is now down to plus 165. We have no props, no over-unders, no fight doesn't go to decisions. I don't know, kind of a tricky one. I guess I'd kind of lean towards the over. I don't really see Brandon Davis getting a finish. If anything, Danaz Batgarel probably knocks him out. But then again, Brandon Davis is very tough. He's never been knocked out. So I'm kind of leaning Davis. I'm kind of leaning Davis by decision. And I just think that line's a little bit off. Plus 165. Any thoughts on the line? Any thoughts on the fight goes or fight doesn't go?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at statistics, which is what we're looking at, it's early. We haven't had time to tape every single fight. I know you've taped almost all of them, but I haven't yet. But, when you look at, this is what you look for when you're, all right, let me find an underdog, but let me find an underdog that's fought the better level of competition. Let me find the underdog that's more experienced. Let me find the underdog that's got a big reach advantage or size advantage, or, an advantage in the wrestling or something, and at least we've seen Brandon Davis go to his wrestling. I know Batgarel does have the background, but, there's no guarantee that he's going to go to it, as he's only attempted 1 takedown in 3 fights and he didn't get it. And not only that, 1.15% control time for Batgarel. That's not enough. Davis has only gotten 6% in his own right. So, I see why Batgarel is the favorite. He should be the better striker here. He should be the crisper striker and the one with more power. And this fight should take place on the feet because neither one of these guys is controlling their opponent more than 6% of the cage time that they've been around. And we got an 11 fight sample size between the two of them. So this should remain on the feet, and Batgarel should get the advantage there as he's more accurate and he's got a lot more power. But minus 200, there's a lot of reasons to like Davis here: the size, the experience, the strength of schedule, and potentially the fact that he goes to his wrestling more. So yeah, it looks a little wide to me. I think I'd probably not bet Batgarel here, and to have gotten Brandon Davis maybe at like plus 230 with Batgarel opening at minus 300, that would have been interesting.
Oh yeah,
that would have been worth it, I think.
Yeah, either way, like this is a pretty good fight. I'm curious to see where that line goes. Looks like some money is coming in on the Davis side, but yeah, it just seems like a lot closer than the line does indicate. I think Davis is, I think, a brown belt in BJJ. Like you mentioned, maybe not the best control in the world, but he does try to mix in takedowns here or there. So yeah, it's a close fight. So we will move on to the next one. Can't wait for the props to come out on that and many more. We're missing a lot of props for these fights, which usually they get them out prior to the show typically, but I guess they're waiting here. So this is one that we're gonna have to look out for in terms of some props, in terms of some violence, because we have Nate Landwehr going against Ludovic Klein. We have Klein, who is 26 years old, 5'7" with a 72-inch reach. Landwehr, 33 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. In terms of the last few fights, Klein did make his UFC debut against Shane Young, won that fight by knockout, and then lost a very close fight to Mike Trezano. I did not have a bet on that fight. I thought the line was off in general, but I did think that Ludovic Klein did enough to get the win. He did get outstruck in terms of the numbers, but he did mix in, I think, 3 or 4 takedowns in that fight. So it was a very close fight regardless, but he did end up losing there. Kind of a biggish upset. I think he was like minus 300 around that range against Trezano. And again, I did not bet it, but I did think the line was off. And then we have Landwehr, who did make his UFC debut against Herbert Burns. He got knocked out. I think it was like a knee knocked him out there, and then won a decision against Darren Elkins. Very, very close fight. A fight that Darren Elkins actually outlanded him throughout the duration of the fight, took him down as well. And then he lost to Julian Rosa with, I think, a flying knee as well. So, yeah, very interesting fight here. Nate Landwehr is going to bring a very exciting fight, as is Klein. Two fighters that are very exciting. I think it's going to be one of the most exciting fights on the card, to be honest. And, take a look at Klein. I went and tape studied Klein, Weezy, and I watched like 4 or 5 fights in a row where he's just head kicking his opponents and getting a knockout. Like, this guy is a human highlight reel, and Nate Landwehr has no striking defense. He absorbs punches with his face, and I see probably a head kick knockout here. But Nate Landwehr, he's tough, but man, you cannot take flying knees to the head and survive. You just can't do it. You can't take, clean head kicks. And I kind of think that's what's going to happen here. So what do you got here for this one, Weezy?
This is going to be such a great fight. I mean, definitely sticks out like a sore thumb for a potential fight of the night candidate here. And like you were saying, dude, if you're the type of person who likes watching dudes get, their heads punted into the upper deck, go back and watch some Ludovic Klein tape, man, especially the pre-UFC. But even in the Shane Young fight, he did the same thing to him there, man. I mean, this guy's head kicks are so fast and so deadly and so accurate. It's hard to see him not catching Landwehr, because Landwehr's, not great defensively, dude. I mean, like, he's getting popped by people, I mean, he is country tough. He comes forward. He's exciting. I loved him yelling, Dana, the whole third round of that, of the Elkins fight was just a treat to watch, man. And, and Nate Landwehr isn't just like this country boy tough guy. He's got 85% takedown defense. He's successfully defended 12 of 14 takedowns. He throws a ton of volume, dude. Check it out. 13.78 significant strikes attempted per minute, 15.71 attempted against him per minute. So, I mean, like, this dude's in nothing but high-paced wars. People are getting knocked out. It's usually Nate, but he's very tough. Like, he bitches even after he gets knocked out. Why'd you stop the fight? And he's leaking blood, and he's got no balance. But Erosa caught him with that length. Burns caught him with that length that he has for the division. And now we can expect Ludovic Klein to potentially do the same thing. Here's the problem. It's that pressure and pace from Landwehr where, he might not be able to get set. He might have to do it with his hands rather than the head kick, because I think Landwehr is just going to be charging at him the whole time, man. I think he's going to try to close the distance and definitely try to make this very uncomfortable, not let Klein get his feet set. He's not going to stand in front of Klein. So I think it could be a little bit closer than people expect. But, I mean, when you talk about the skill of the stand-up games of these guys, it's Klein all day there. And then you look at Landwehr, he's the kind of fighter that you would put in front of a guy like Ludovic Klein if you're saying we need a highlight out of Ludovic Klein. Because you got a guy in Landwehr who in his 3 UFC fights has attempted 0 takedowns. And he's had 14 takedowns attempted against him. So it's clear as day that Nate Landwehr prefers to stand. And that's what you want to see a guy like Klein get, so that you can see that highlight reel head kick that he brings to the table. And boy, it seems like Landwehr is the recipient of, like a couple of those in the past with the knees up the middle. So if we look at the strength of schedule stats, Landwehr's had a little bit rougher go, 11.67 total fights compared to 3.5 for Klein. So Landwehr definitely fighting the more experienced, better win-loss competition. His wins are impressive, with Darren Elkins is 16-7, while Klein is beating guys like Shane Young and Lucas Sajewski. So we're still waiting for a guy, Ludovic Klein to get a pre-UFC or a UFC signature win. The Sajewski win was before the UFC. So Landwehr is going to be that little step up. I thought Klein won the Trezano fight too, but it was really close. You could have flipped a coin. They both could have won that fight. So I like Klein here, though. I think this is tailor-made for a guy like him who prefers to be standing, who does his best work standing, and I think Nate's going to absolutely oblige him in that. He's just going to have to learn to deal with the pressure that Landwehr is going to bring, and if he's got a good plan to deal with that pressure, I think he should easily outbox him and maybe even knock him out.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. Like, what does Nate the Train want to do? He wants to go out there and get into a war. He wants to get into a very high volume, very high paced fight. And that's not what you want to do against Ludovic Klein. In the Elkins fight, Elkins landed 121 significant strikes out of 253. Landwehr threw 234 significant strikes, landed 118. Yeah, I mean, maybe you can take some shots from that, like from Elkins, but I don't think you're going to take it from Klein. I think Klein does knock him out here. Probably a highlight head kick as well. Not having any striking defense is a bad idea against Klein because he's going to kick your head off there. What I will say, though, is I was really impressed with Landwehr's takedown defense in the Elkins fight. Like, Elkins was, he's 1 for 13, Elkins, on takedowns against Landwehr, which is very impressive. As we know, Elkins is a very solid wrestler, so that's impressive. We saw that Klein went to his takedowns in his last fight against Trezano, so maybe that's not on the table here. So, I could see a scenario where Landwehr kind of makes Klein uncomfortable, but I just think at some point Klein's going to catch him. He has power in his hands as well. I see him knock out guys with his hands, but from what I saw mostly, it was that head kick. That head kick is vicious, and Landwehr's been getting knocked out as of late. But yeah, the guy's tough, but you can't take a flush flying knee. You can't take a flush knee. You can't take a flush head kick without going out, no matter who you are, really. So I'll take Klein as well. We see that Klein is a really big favorite, opening up -220, already down to -300. And we see that Landwehr opened up +185, currently +250. And yeah, I'm kind of leaning the under depending on where the line's going to be set. I could very well see a scenario where Klein kind of outpicks him, picks him apart for 15 minutes. I can see that scenario, but I think the most likely scenario is a knockout. Any thoughts on the line? You think it's too wide? You think it's too short? Any thoughts on the fight goes or fight doesn't go?
Well, the one thing I wanted to highlight a couple of things here. First of all, Ludovic Klein, 17 wins, 16 of them inside the distance. Wow, right? And then not only that, it's 47% by sub and 47% by knockout. So the guy's got more than one way to finish you. He's very, very dangerous, and he's more experienced. And then we look at 4 career losses for Landwehr, 3 career losses for Klein. 5 of those 7 losses coming inside the distance, Brady. So definitely that's the kind of statistic that gets us really looking at any kind of under that's priced better than -225 to 230, right? In addition to that, we talk about Ludovic Klein landing a knockdown on 1.85% of the significant strikes that he's landed thus far in the UFC. And then we look on the defensive side for Landwehr, and we're seeing that he's being knocked down on 1.4% of the 143 significant strikes that he's absorbed. So we see an absolute path for Klein knocking out Landwehr. So this is something where the statistics are leading us to look at the under, the fight doesn't go to decision, and a Ludovic Klein inside the distance or knockout prop bet.
Yeah, I like it. Curious to see where they do set that over under at. I'm assuming 2.5 rounds, but curious to see the odds on that. Yeah, I think the under is probably the way to look on this one. Yeah, Klein minus 300. I probably wouldn't go there. I'm not going to have any parlays this week. I know you have a parlay that you'll talk about, but I don't think I'll get there. I think I'll just have some straight bets and some props for me this week. But yeah, I think we covered everything in this fight. I say we do move on. We have 130 of you here. Thank you all for hanging out for this video. If you guys can please leave a like. Let's get those likes up. We are here every Sunday, 6:15 p.m. Eastern time, every single week. Even on an off week, we usually do a look-ahead video for the 2 weeks ahead. So, but we have cards up until Thanksgiving, I think, so not going to worry about that. So we'll move on to the next fight. We have Eubanks going against Luana Carolina. Yeah, exciting fight here. We have Eubanks, who is 36 years old, 5'4", with a 67-inch reach. Luana Carolina, 28 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach. So Eubanks, in her last 5 fights, she is 3-2. Had a decision win over Sarah Cheesecake Morass, a decision win over Julia Avila, a decision loss to Caitlin Vieira, very close fight there, a decision loss to Penny Kienzad, and then also a knockout win. Her very first finish in the UFC against one Elise Reed. As far as Luana Carolina, she did make, I want to say she made her UFC debut against Priscilla Ketchup-Beating a couple fights ago. She won that by decision. And then she lost to Ariana Lipsky by a very nasty submission. I watched it earlier today where she kind of, I think it was like a knee bar and just like almost broke her leg off. It was horrible. And then she won a split decision against Poliana Botelho, a very, very close fight there. I went back and watched. It could have went either way. So she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. So Uncle Weezy, what is sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, so if the line is really wide already, I think it's like 260 minus 265 for Sajara. And, we know, so Carolina's got a Muay Thai background, and Sajara, we know, black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, goes to her wrestling a ton. 33% control time in the UFC for Sajara Eubanks. So Eubanks is at her best when she's using her wrestling, getting the fight to the ground, using top control, hunting for submissions, winning rounds that way. Luana, on the other hand, wants to keep it standing. She's long. She's 69-inch reach for the division, very long. And she's definitely going to try to keep it striking. And we look at the grappling statistics. She's successfully defended 10 of 11 takedown attempts. So she's been really good at keeping the fight standing. However, when we look at the competition that's trying to take her down, we got Mabeli Lima, who's not good. Priscilla Ketchup-Beating, who doesn't go for takedown. She keeps fights standing. Ariana Lipsky, not known for her wrestling. Poliana Botelho, not known for her wrestling. Sajara Eubanks is going to bring a different kind of wrestling, jiu-jitsu-based pressure to Luana here. So Luana's looked good, though. I mean, 4 UFC fights, and she's 3-1, and I'm including the Contender Series fight against Lima. While we got a winning record for Eubanks, she's 5-4 in the UFC. Her 4 losses, Sajara Eubanks, are against ladies that have winning records in the UFC. She's got the better wins, the more experienced competition Sajara Eubanks is beating. And overall is fighting the better brand of competition. So, this is going to be probably a pretty binary fight, in my opinion, in that if Eubanks gets it to the ground, she'll have a lot of success and probably win the fight. But if she can't get it there, I do see Luana Carolina outpointing her. So let's look at Sajara Eubanks' takedown offense, and we'll look at Carolina's takedown defense. Eubanks 16 of 34 on her takedown attempts in 9 fights. So that's almost 4 takedown attempts per fight. She's very efficient, getting them at a 47% clip, averaging 1.94% on her averaging 1.94 takedowns per 15 minutes and 33% control time for, while only 14% control time against. So she's done a good job of out-controlling her opponents. She has given up 7 out of 20 takedown attempts against her. So her takedown defense hasn't been great, but because she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, maybe she prefers to have it down there, doesn't care if you take her down. But Carolina's not going to try to do that because Carolina has 1 takedown attempt in 4 fights. So she's going to want to keep this standing. Eubanks is going to want to get it to the ground. Eubanks has been a very efficient wrestler. I think Luana Carolina's takedown defense is going to be tested like never before. Therefore, when we see the line at like minus 260, minus 270 Sajara, the bookies are telling us that they're expecting that Sajara is going to get these takedowns and win the fight pretty easily at like what? An almost 73% implied probability. So it looks like Eubanks has got most of the advantages here, except for if it stays standing, which in which case we could maybe get some dog money on Carolina. What did you see in the tape?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big pass for me, Uncle Weezy. We see that Carolina going to be the younger fighter. She's going to be the bigger fighter. She's going to have a reach advantage, a height advantage. Her striking is okay. She does throw a lot of volume. She's really long. She's really lengthy. I feel like she could give Eubanks some problems there. I guess my concern is not, my concern is Eubanks gassing out, right? Like we've seen plenty of times where Eubanks would look phenomenal in the first round, kind of like Botelho did against Carolina. Botelho looked really good against Carolina. She won the first round, and then Botelho kind of slowed down, and Carolina was able to win those next two rounds. I guess my concern, and it's really my only concern, is if Eubanks does get Carolina down to the mat, she doesn't finish her, which she could, but maybe she doesn't. And then it gets to the second round, she starts to slow down, like against Betch Correa, right? She looked really good in that first round. She slowed down against Betch Correa, lost those second two. Even against Pani Kianzad, she looks really good in round one. She slows down the next couple rounds. So that's my only concern is what if she wins round one and then she slows down in rounds two and rounds three and loses those? On top of that, she's 36 years old. Like that is getting up there. That's concerning. This is at 125 pounds, which last fight against Elise Reed was as well. I think she made weight. Yeah, she made weight. She looked good, but still, she's 36 years old. She's somebody that struggled to make weight at like 135. Like she's somebody that struggled at that weight class. So it kind of surprised me when she did come down to 125. But then again, she made weight. So I'm curious to see her on the scales here. Yeah, it's a sketchy fight, Uncle Weezy. I like Eubanks to win, but you take a look at the odds, and it's just I really don't want to trust Eubanks at this price tag. You see that she opened up as a minus 240 favorite. She's now minus 265. She Carolina opened up plus 180. She's now plus 205. Yeah, I mean, I loved Eubanks around like minus 340 against Elise Reed, but this is one that I feel kind of sketched out about. I'm going to go with Eubanks because I think she's the much better fighter. It's not even close. It's just this could be close if she does gas out, if she has a bad weight cut. So with all those concerns in mind, do I want to lay minus 265 on CR Eubanks? No, I do not. Like even any props that are going to stick out, we see that there is no prop for the over-under. The fight goes or fight doesn't go, but it probably goes over. If there is a finish, I think it's going to be Eubanks early, but I don't think it's all that likely. Probably goes over, and the over is probably juiced big time. So this is a fight where I'm just going to sit back, watch this one, maybe get some exposure on DraftKings on the Eubanks side. Maybe she does get some takedowns here and there, control time, all the good stuff. But as far as minus 265 for Eubanks, I just can't get there, Uncle Weezy.
What did you pay for Eubanks when you bet her against Reed?
I want to say it was like minus 330, minus 340 around that range.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, look, Luana Carolina is better than Elise Reed, and so I think what happened is that we saw Eubanks get that first finish. The first time she's ever got a finish win is a short notice opponent in Reed who's coming up a weight class. We have to remember that as well. And it just was a really bad spot for her. But now you're paying almost the same price against a much better Luana Carolina who's been tested against some really good opponents in Botelho, Lipsky, Cachoeira. So, yeah, it just feels like it's too wide here. I think Eubanks wins this fight, and she probably even cruises if she has success with the wrestling in the first and second round. But yeah, it's you're the implied probability is like 73% at this price. So yeah, it's a little much for me. So it's going to be a stay away from me as well. Yeah, but actually, Sajara not a finisher, and neither is Luana. So maybe this goes to decision, and maybe the fight, the over 2.5 or something could be a decent parlay piece.
Yep, agree there. Yeah, I mean she could very well look minus 500, but do I want to pay the minus 265 to find out? I just think there's better spots on the card, even for like parlay pieces. Like I'm not going to have a parlay this week more than likely, but if I was to do a parlay, she would not be one of those parlay pieces there. So, but I will pick her to win. Just not as confident as I was against her in Elise Reed, to be honest. So we'll move on to the next fight. We have Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. We have not seen him in a while, going against Ramazan Ameev. We have Roberts, who is 34 years old, 6'1" with a 74-inch reach, going against Ameev, 34 years old, 5'10" with a 76-inch reach. Roberts is going to have the 3-inch height advantage, but he's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. They're both 34 years old. So looking at their last few fights, we have a Roberts who is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win over Oliver Enkamp. He had a split decision win over David Zawada, a submission loss against Claudia Silva, a knockout loss against Michelle Pereira, a knockout win against Salim Imadaev. We have not seen him in quite some time. And then as far as Ramazan Emeev, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Had a decision win over Alberto Mina, a decision win over Stefan Sekulik, a decision loss against Anthony Rocco Martin, a decision win over Nicholas Stolze, and then a decision win over David Zawada. So this is pretty clear cut for me in a way. I think the big difference in this fight, and you're going to get into numbers on this, is going to be the takedowns of Ramazan Emeev. Obviously, a really good wrestler, solid grappler, but the lack of takedown defense from Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, I think, is going to be the key in this fight. Ramazan Emeev is going to attempt takedowns, and Danny Roberts really can't stuff a takedown. So I think that's going to be key here for me in terms of breaking down the fight. Danny Roberts has not fought in 1 year and 10 months. His last fight was 1 year and 10 months ago. And then as far as Ramazan Emeev, his last fight was 6 or 8 months ago. So what's sticking out to you on this one, Uncle Weezy?
Yeah, basically what I've seen from Emeev is what he's a really good minute winner. He doesn't make any mistakes. He's really good defensively. And then we look at 6 UFC fights for Ramazan Emeev and 48 takedown attempts. So, he's really active with the wrestling. He's only getting the takedowns at a 29% rate, but he's using the wrestling to slow down his opponents when their pace becomes a little bit too much for him. He just seems to be thinking a lot in there. And maybe that's why we haven't seen Emeev finish any of his 5 wins, is because he's absolutely comfortable with winning minutes without having to make a defensive lapse that could cost him a fight, right? And we've never even seen Ramazan Emeev knocked down. He averages only 1.98 significant strikes absorbed per minute. And his striking defense, it's better than 2/3, dude. 66.79% on the striking defense. So Emeev's he's a tough nut to crack. He's really good defensively. And he's just winning fights. He's 5-1. The only guy to beat him was Martin. Look, Ramazan has been taken down 4 times. He's shown 66% takedown defense. He's been controlled about 5.57% of the time. But Danny Roberts, has only gotten 1 takedown in 10 UFC fights and in 15 takedown attempts. So 6.67% takedown percentage. Roberts' fights are taking place a lot in control time positions. He's getting 18.76% control time, but he's allowing 30% control time. So just almost half of his fights taking place in control time positions. And we know that Danny's known for his power. He's got a couple knockouts. He's definitely, 3 of his UFC 6 wins are by knockout. He's finished 4 of his 6 wins inside the UFC, but he's been finished in all of his losses. So that's problematic. So that's going to be interesting here is how do you play the time props if you're on the Emeev side? Because Emeev's got 0 finishes, but Roberts has been finished in all of his losses, and we haven't seen Danny Roberts fight in 2 years. So it's been a long way off for him, while Emeev has been very active. He's got 24 fights in his career, 6 of them at the UFC level. He's 5-1 in the UFC. So Danny Roberts is a guy who, he looks to land that one big shot. He's landing a knockdown. He's got 3 knockdowns and 286 significant strikes landed. So that's over 1% of the significant strikes that he lands results in a knockdown, 0.54 knockdowns per 15 minutes. But he's also getting knocked down on 1.5% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed. So I just see Emeev being much better defensively here. And for a guy like Roberts, who relies on one big shot, who relies on a mistake from his opponent, and then you look at a guy who's as good defensively as Emeev is, it's pretty hard to see Ramazan losing this fight. And then you add in the fact that he's such a willing wrestler as Emeev, and then you look at the piss-poor takedown defense of Danny Roberts that's just a little bit above 50%, and he's getting controlled 30% of the time. If there's any point in the fight where Emeev doesn't feel comfortable on the feet, he's just going to take it to the ground. So, yeah, it looks like the path is there. If you're on the Ameev side, yeah, I'd say bet him by decision, but god damn, I mean, Roberts, finishing all 4 of his losses, could have an adrenaline dump here. Hasn't had a fight in 2 years. I'd love to extract that value. You can almost always do that in an Ameev fight by just saying I'm going to take him by decision, but I still probably will take him by decision because Ameev's just not a finisher, man. But if Roberts does make a mistake, maybe we will see Ameev get that first finish, but this should be Ramazan going away. It should be easy for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty clear cut, right? Ameev's going to go for takedowns. Roberts can't stuff a takedown. I think if there is a finish in this fight, it's probably going to come from the Roberts side. Like I said, Ameev is definitely not a finisher whatsoever. But yeah, I'm with Ameev as well. He does have a 47% finish rate, only 14% by knockout, 33% by submission. Roberts with a 76% finish rate, and like you mentioned, he's been finished 5 times, 3 by knockout and 2 by submission. So maybe an Ameev submission. I think Ameev just kind of grinds him out for 3 rounds, to be honest. And then we'll see the line here. We see that Ameev is a pretty big favorite, opened up as a -300. He is now -230. Roberts opened up +250 and currently +195. I think if you like the fight goes, you're probably banking on Ameev. If you like the fight doesn't go, you're kind of banking on Roberts, or you're banking on Roberts getting finished in every fight. But yeah, probably not going to have a play here in terms of the money line, in terms of any props. I'm probably going to sit back and watch this one as well. Any thoughts on the money line? Any thoughts on the fight goes or doesn't go?
Yeah, dude, that's the hard part, because I probably wouldn't touch the time props just because I think they're kind of baked into what you think the fighters are going to do. So if you think the fight doesn't go to decision, probably bet just Roberts inside the distance. And if you think it does, just bet Ramazan by decision. Well, actually, if you think it does go to the distance, then just bet that it will go the distance because you get a better line than you would if you were to bet Ameev. So, yeah, this is just I do like Ramazan a lot in this fight. The statistical advantages that he has, especially in the defensive stats, are really good, and I think it's a tailor-made matchup for him to cruise here.
Yep, with you there. We do have a dono in the chat, Gogo_Flamingo, saying, was just chatting with the MMA guru. I get better odds than Os. Rockhold is a 2.3 underdog here. Think he might grind out a boring decision. Thoughts? Have not looked into it, but I'm kind of leaning Strickland first look. Any thoughts on this one, Weezy? You haven't looked into it at all.
Yes. He's just been more active, Strickland has, and he's getting good wins against dangerous strikers like Uriah Hall. So yeah, I mean, it's got to be. I like Strickland here. It's hard to know what Luke Rockhold we're going to see, and then how old is Luke Rockhold right now?
Pretty old, I think.
Yeah, right. I mean, like Strickland's in his prime. He's and even before we've seen this recent run, Strickland was 8-3 in the UFC. Not that long ago. This guy's winning all of his fights. He's really good up here at 185 too. Dangerous dude.
He's well-rounded. His ground game is good. I believe he's a brown belt. He's solid, really solid guy. But yeah, for me personally, I probably wouldn't touch it. But if you think there's value on Rockhold and he's an underdog, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yep. So moving on to the next fight, we have a interesting one. Andrew Sanchez going against Bruno Silva. I think this one's going to be pretty fun. We have Sanchez, who is 33 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach. Bruno Silva, 32 years old, 6 foot, 74-inch reach. Looking at the last few fights, so Bruno Silva made his UFC debut against Wellington Turman and won by knockout. And look at all those knockouts in his last 5 fights. This guy is a finisher. This guy hits like an absolute truck. We saw how vicious his ground and pound was. It looks like he was barely landing on Wellington Turman, and he put him out cold on top. Like, that was vicious. This guy is a vicious man. Prior to the Turman fight, though, we had not seen him in a while. I believe he got suspended for PEDs potentially, and we had not seen him for like 2-3 years. But
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He came back against Turman, and he looked really good. Like, his takedown defense looked much improved. Like, you take a look at some of his fights outside of the UFC, he's getting taken down. He's getting submitted. All of his losses come by submission. Apparently, now he's a black belt. Apparently, he's fixed that takedown defense because he stuffed like 8 or 9 takedowns against Wellington Turman. Like, very impressive stuff. He ends up on top and pounds him out. So, yeah, really like what I'm seeing from Bruno Silva. On the flip side, Andrew Sanchez is kind of going through a little bit of a rough patch here. He is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So he goes out there and wins by decision against Marcus Perez. He wins by decision against Marc-Andre Barriault. He loses by decision against Marvin Vettori, which is no shame at all. He knocks out one determinant, and then he loses by knockout against Makhmed Muradov. So those two losses, actually, Muradov, very good fighter, although he did drop the ball as like a minus 700 favorite against Mearshart. And then obviously Marvin Vettori, phenomenal fighter there. So no shame in those losses. But yeah, very interesting and very intriguing matchup. I guess it's kind of, interesting to see the evolution of Andrew Sanchez. Andrew Sanchez is somebody that, if you take a look at him earlier in the UFC, he's somebody that typically wrestled a ton. But with that wrestling, he would get really tired and then he'd get finished in the third round. I remember the Anthony Smith fight where Sanchez was looking very good early, and then Anthony Smith kind of takes it and turns it around and finishes him in the third round himself. And then he also got finished in the third round in the, what was it? It was the Ryan James fight where he tires out as well. And then after that, we kind of see the lack of wrestling for Andrew Sanchez. After that James fight, he gets only 2 takedowns in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights. And I think that's because when he wrestles, he slows down, he gasses out. So if he wrestles here, Uncle Weezy, I'm not so sure he's going to have success. I mean, Silva, I believe he has a wrestling background himself. Silva's takedown defense looked phenomenal. And on the flip side, if Sanchez does choose to wrestle and he's not successful, that's really going to hurt his gas tank there. So I kind of feel like this is going to stay standing. And I think someone's getting knocked out here.
I got to agree with you there, dude. Silva, 20 professional wins, 17 of them by knockout, right? So, I mean, he's pretty good at something there. And then you got Sanchez, 12 professional wins, half of them by knockout, and he's got 2 submissions as well. So, pretty good. These guys are finishers, and then they're getting finished too. I mean, Bruno Silva's been finishing 5 of his 6 losses, 5 submission losses on his record. And, Andrew Sanchez has been knocked out in 4 out of his 6 professional losses, and in 3 of his 4 UFC losses. So we see Bruno Silva, who knocks people out, and we see Sanchez getting knocked out. And then we see Sanchez, a guy who we know is a very well-credentialed grappler. And you got a guy in Silva who's getting submitted in 5 of his 6 pro losses. So this fight is screaming violence to me, dude. Violence. And then look at Silva's numbers, right? We've only got the 1 fight sample size, but he successfully defended all 10 takedown attempts. And that fight took place in control time positions for 95% of the fight. So this was a fight where he got dragged into the area where we see that Silva is the least comfortable, where he's getting submitted, where he's losing fights, getting dominated on the ground. And it was that kind of a fight. And Turman was having success up until he got reversed, and then he started getting pounded, and it was over. So, yeah, this is a spot that's just jumping out for violence. It's just jumping out. And there are other spots on this card that are also jumping out for violence. So, this is really a great spot for that. We have a good sample size on Andrew Sanchez when it comes to his fights, but he's actually the older fighter here. He's actually the less experienced fighter, and he's actually the less active finisher here. But then if we look at just the overall stats here, Sanchez fighting guys with winning records, beating guys with losing records, and, losing the guys with winning records as well. 1.58 ratio. Makhmed Muradov, Marvin Vettori, Marc Barriault are 3 out of the last 5 fights that he's had. He's got a win over Turman. So does Silva. So, that's the MMA math there. But here's the thing, man. Sanchez can have grappling success here. And I think if he's smart, that's just what he has to do. There's no reason to stay standing with Bruno Silva. I don't care how good his ground and pound is, because Sanchez's stand-up is not on Bruno Silva's level. There's no way. So you got to believe that Sanchez is going to have to go to that grappling early and often. And even though we haven't seen it as much from him lately, he still averages over 5 takedown attempts per fight. And he's gotten 15 takedowns in 9 fights. And he's got 100% takedown defense against, out-controlling his opponents 28% to 2.45%. The path is there for Sanchez to win via grappling, win via submission. And the path is there for Bruno Silva to stop some takedowns, land a big shot, and finish this one early. But either way, somebody's getting finished in this fight, Brady. Gotta believe that.
Yeah, I think violence is definitely going to be the answer here. I'm actually having kind of a strong lean to the Silva side, and the reason being is because, like we talked about, Sanchez has not went to that wrestling all that much, and he's going to need to here. I mean, he's not going to want to strike with Bruno Silva. This guy hits like an absolute truck. Silva has an 85% finish rate, all 85% of those wins coming by knockout, which is interesting because I swear I saw that he's a black belt now in BJJ, so no submissions on his record, and again, he's been submitted in all of his losses. And then Andrew Sanchez has been knocked out 4 times, a massive 4 times Sanchez has been knocked out. That's not good, right? So Sanchez, I agree, he's going to have to come in here, try to get takedowns, but it looked like, I know it was against Wellington Turman, Wellington Turman and Sanchez, their wrestling is completely different levels, but his takedown defense looked, much, much improved than what we've seen outside of the UFC. Guys would be able to take him down easily. He wouldn't have much to offer off his back. He'd give up his back. He gets submitted, but actually really was impressed with what I saw in that Turman fight. So yeah, interesting fight. I do lean towards the Silva side. I think Silva does put his lights out at some point. Maybe Andrew Sanchez does come out here with the wrestling heavy game plan and he has success early on. I could see that. But with that wrestling heavy game plan, it's going to require energy. And we have seen Andrew Sanchez slow down more than once and get finished more than once after implementing a wrestling heavy game plan, like in the James fight, like in the Smith fight. And I could see, Silva getting a knockout at some point in this fight. So I do like the Silva side. I like Silva by knockout. I like the under 2.5, and I like the fight doesn't go. So we do see that Silva is a favorite. He opened up plus 100, and he's now minus 130. We do see that Andrew Sanchez opened up minus 120. He's now plus 110. We have no odds on the over-under, but I'm with you. I'm leaning towards the under. The fight doesn't go to decision, and then I'm also leaning on the Bruno Silva side.
Brady, oh, God, Brady. You're not going to believe this.
Let's hear it.
All right. Fight doesn't go to decision just got put up on 5 Dimes, a book that neither one of us has access to, right?
See it now. Yep.
Minus 135.
There it is. Yeah. I wish I had 5 Dimes, man.
That would be that. That'd have been a max bet right there for me at minus 135. Have been the easiest max bet I've ever. Well, yeah, that'd be the easiest one. I'd max bet that in a heartbeat right now.
Yeah.
For the love of God, bet online, open it at minus 125. Get ahead of 5 Dimes because they're trying to outdo you here. Yeah, man, that's I can't believe that's where the line is on this fight. That's bonkers to me.
Just makes no sense, right? It makes no sense.
None. It's just like what was the one a couple weeks ago where there was the Medich Turner where we were like, what are we missing? Why is this not minus 500? Fight doesn't go.
Yeah,
this is weird. I don't know what they're seeing. I don't know, but I love it. Minus 135, I'd be on that.
Yeah, because Silva, when Silva wins, it's by knockout. When Silva loses, it's by finish as well. It's by submission for the most part. So, yeah, don't quite get that. And then there's another line that opened up. We'll talk about it. That's pretty surprising as well. Quickly want to go through and miss the ones we did not get to talk about. So it's for the Roberts Ameev. We have the fight doesn't go. Plus 125. The fight goes to decision minus 165. Kind of agreed there. I think it goes to decision. Yeah. We have Klein Landwehr. Oh, this is interesting. So Klein Landwehr, fight goes to decision plus 105. Fight doesn't go to decision minus 145. That's not bad.
That's not bad, dude. There's violence written all over that one, and only minus 145. I like that. That's a good one, but I don't have 5 Dimes.
No, we sure don't. So we're not getting those lines, but hopefully we get something close to it. Brandon Davis, Denat Baccarel, the fight goes to decision minus 155, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 115. I think we touched on everything we missed. So yeah, we got some props out. So they took a little bit longer than we wanted, but we got all caught up there. But yeah, that violence prop, man. Sanchez, Silva, going to keep an eye out for that one for sure. All right, let's get to the next fight here. We have 11 fights on this card. We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights to go. Not bad. And this is the people's main event, or this is my main event. I'm looking forward to this fight so much. I like both guys here. Julian Marquez going against Jordan Wright. We have Marquez, 31 years old, 6'2" with a 72-inch reach. Jordan Wright, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 77-inch reach. Marquez training at Glory MMA and Fitness with James Krause. Marquez, he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. It's a knockout win over Phil Hawes, a submission win over Darren Stewart, Two solid wins there. A split decision loss against Alessio Di Chirico, and then a submission win over Maki Pitolo. Very good comeback win as well, where Maki Pitolo was able to kind of take him down multiple times early on. He came back and got a submission there, and then also a submission win over Sam Alvey. It's not easy to finish Sam Alvey, and he did it. As far as Jordan Wright, he is 3-1 and won no contest in his last 5 fights. He got knocked out brutally against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, turned into a no contest. I think Fluffy popped for some marijuana.
Yep.
So he really should be 11-2, but he is 11-1. As far as a knockout win over Gabriel Checo, a knockout win over Ike Villanueva, that was his UFC debut. It was I think it was a cut that the doctor stopped it. There was a nice knee in the clinch there. And then he got knocked out by Joaquin Buckley twice in that fight, knocked him out in the first round, then knocked him out for sure in the second round. And then he knocked out Jamie Pickett, which this one was impressive to me because I don't think Jamie Pickett is the best fighter, but what Jamie Pickett is very tough. And Jordan Wright just went right through him. So that was impressive to me. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight. Uncle Weezy, you have Julian Marquez going against Jordan Wright. What's sticking out to you on this one?
Yeah, God, man. So like Jordan Wright is somebody that's been pissing me off for a long time, and he's been shitting in my apple pie every time I bet against him, and every time I bet on him, he does not show up. So I'm already biased. I got to get that out of the way. I can't stand this fucking guy. I can't wait for Marquez to destroy him. Jordan Wright is a great hammer and a really bad nail, to quote you, Brady. He's somebody that his fights are going to finish early. And if we look right now, the fight doesn't go to decision prop is minus 305 right now. So the books are already telling you it's over a 75% implied probability that this fight finishes inside the distance. And the stats, they're going to meet that out. Jordan Wright, 100% finish rate. Julian Marquez, a 100% finish rate. Jordan Wright, 2 losses, 100% finish rate in those 2 losses. I don't count no contests where you get bailed out after you get knocked out because your opponent smoked weed. Total bullshit. So, and then Julian Marquez has never been finished. So that's what I like about this fight is that in order for somebody to beat Jordan Wright, they're going to have to absorb those first 2 big shots that he's going to land. And if you get past that, then, once you start landing on him, he goes away quickly. He's not somebody that's known for his toughness. Julian Marquez, on the other hand, is somebody that you could hit in the head with a shovel and he'll just smile at you. So this, for me, from what I've seen about Jordan Wright and your Uncle Weezy's biases against one Jordan Wright, this is what I look at as the perfect matchup for Julian Marquez. If Marquez fights somebody that he's just flat out tougher than, he's going to win because you can't knock this dude out. It's impossible. The shit that he's been through in the cage is incredible. That win against Maki Pitolo was unbelievable. What a fight that was. And he's not, he's subbed Sam Alvey, win by sub over Darren Stewart. He's knocked out Phil Hawes. He was the guy who, when Phil Hawes was the biggest prospect to come on the Contender Series, Marquez ended him. So there's a reason why Marquez is a favorite here. I smashed this line, Brady. I've got Marquez in a 2-unit parlay with somebody we're going to talk about later. And I've also got him in a 2-unit straight bet at minus 210. Marquez, good power. Jordan Wright, fantastic power from what we've seen in the UFC. Here's the thing about the Jordan Wright numbers that jump off the page, though, Brady. Jordan Wright is landing a knockdown on 3.28% of the significant strikes that he's landed. That's 3.51 knockdowns per 15 minutes. But if you look at what he's absorbing, he is getting knocked down on 4.69% of the significant strikes that he's absorbed, which is a crazy 5.26 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. Jordan Wright has been knocked out by taking a hot shower before.
What?
Okay. Yeah, no, I heard that. Okay. Not firsthand. I don't have firsthand evidence of it, but I've heard he's collapsed in the shower just from it being a little bit too warm. So Julian Marquez is not the kind of opponent that you want to have when you get knocked out by a hot shower. Let's go, Julian Marquez. I'm looking for a second round finish here, by submission, by knockout. It's just he's going to walk through the fire, and Jordan Wright won't. And if Jordan Wright wins this fight, Brady, he will be number 2 on Weezy's list, with number 1 being Abdul Razak Al Hassan, which is the fighter that has most fucked me in every bet that I've ever placed on or against. And if Jordan Wright pulls this one off against Julian Marquez, he will be named number 2 on that list. And I am very, very determined to make sure that that does not happen. Julian Marquez, for the love of Jah, win this fight.
I like it. Dang, you must really not like the Ninja. I don't like him either, but I do got to do that. Every time there's a Jordan Wright fight, I got to go through his record. So he's somebody that was on the Alaskan fight scene. So he starts his career off, and he wins against an 0-0 guy. It goes like this: 0-0, 0-0, 0-5, 0-0, 0-21, 0-10, 0-0. He finally beat somebody with a win on his record, John Stern, who is 1-2. Then he does beat Craig Wilkerson 7-3. So his first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 opponents did not have a single win. After that, he makes his debut on the Contender Series, gets starched in 40 seconds against Fluffy Hernandez, which, that's not great. And then he goes out there and beats Gabriel Checo in the first or second round by knees and punches. And then he goes out there in his UFC debut. He beats Ike Villanueva by a cut stoppage there, and then loses to Buckley and beats Pickett there. So what stuck out to me, Weezy, was when you take a look at Julian Marquez and where does he really struggle? He struggles when people are taking him down. Like Maki Pitolo was able to take down Julian Marquez 5 times, and Pitolo was able to control him for 9 minutes of that fight. And remind you that Marquez won that fight by submission in the 3rd round, which that is so impressive, getting control for 9 minutes and then winning it. On top of that, Darren Stewart took him down 4 times. Controlled him for about 3.5 minutes. He won that fight as well. Alessio Di Chirico took him down 4 times. Di Chirico controlled him for 4 minutes. It was a split decision, a very close fight. So Phil Hawes on the Contender Series, Phil Hawes takes him down as well. Phil Hawes was able to control him for some time. Phil Hawes was 1 for 7 on takedowns. So what I'm trying to say is when guys are having success against Marquez, they are taking him down. And guess what, Uncle Weezy? Jordan Wright, he shot 1 takedown, right? He shot 1 takedown. I think he's 0 for 1 on takedown. So I don't see him taking down Julian Marquez, and he's probably going to give Julian Marquez the fight that he wants, and that fight is going to be a war. Marquez is going to walk into fire. That's what he does. I remember watching one of his earlier fights where he literally eats like 200 plus significant strikes. This guy has a granite chin. Like you said, Uncle Weezy, you're going to need a baseball bat or a shovel to knock this guy out. And even if you had brought those into the cage, I'm convinced that you probably still couldn't get him out of there. This guy has next level toughness. And on the flip side, that is not Jordan Wright. Jordan Wright is very, very chinny. He has that tall man's defense. He hates being hit. He hates it so much. When you pressure this guy, he does not like it. He folded against Fluffy Hernandez. He folded against Joaquin Buckley. When you pressure this guy, if you don't let him, be where he's comfortable, and that's at space with that karate background, if you pressure him, he quits. He shells up. He quits, and he gets knocked out. He's chinny. No striking defense, like 39% striking defense. That's horrible. That is terrible. Marquez, I will admit his striking defense is not great himself. On paper, it's 55%, but he is hittable. But at least he has a chin to back it up. At least he has some toughness. So, I like Julian Marquez quite a bit. This is my only bet on the card thus far. I put 2 units on it. I think I got it around -184 on FanDuel. I think it's a great spot for him. I mean, outside of a Jordan Wright, like early knockout, I think, Julian Marquez gets it done. It could be early. It could be late. But I think he does get it done inside the distance one way or another. Another thing I want to bring up is Jordan Wright has never been over the 1.5 round mark, which that is, I think, a 13 or 14 fight sample. So there's a big sample of him either getting an early finish or, getting finished himself before that 1.5 round mark. So yeah, I'm not one to typically play under 1.5, but I think this could be the spot. But the alternate 2.5 could definitely be the spot where the fight doesn't go as well. But yeah, I think Marquez does get it done one way or another. But yeah, I mean, look, you take a look at most of his finishes; they're very early. Like when he's having success, he's comfortable. But when he faces any type of adversity, he kind of just shells up. He gets hit. He looks for a way out of there. Kind of like Ontiveros. Not as bad. Definitely not as bad. But kind of get that Ontiveros vibe from a Jordan Wright when he doesn't get what he's looking for there.
Yeah, and even in the Ike Villanueva fight, he had Villanueva on skates with the very first spinning kick that he threw, but then Villanueva put him up against the cage and started fucking him up. And if he hadn't have been cut, I think Villanueva might have stopped him. I mean, it was only because he got cut by the very first strike, but then Villanueva kind of like slowed it down. He put Jordan Wright back up against the cage, elbowed him in the head a few times, and Wright didn't look like he knew where he was. And then they stepped in, they looked at the cut, and they stopped the fight, dude. I think he might have even lost that fight if they hadn't stopped it because of the cut. So yeah,
sure.
man, this is one of those things that, yeah, Jordan Wright's got great power. And I even said to you, because I had money on Pickett, I was very confident that Pickett was going to, just weather that early storm and get him out of there in the second or third round. Well, I was really impressed with Jordan Wright against Pickett. I mean, like, he made that look really easy. And we were all talking about how tough Pickett was. So that was an eye-opening win for Wright. And he might be taking the next step here. And I'm going to be so mad if he takes the next step here and he beats Marquez. But, I really do think that Marquez's toughness is the X factor in this fight. And that we've seen, Wright not have much interest after he doesn't get his opponent out of there early. We saw Fluffy do it. We saw Buckley do it. And I think we're going to see Marquez do it on Saturday.
Oh yeah, 100%. Blade saying Marquez isn't aggressive enough. He's very aggressive. If you don't think that, I'd go back and I'd watch the Sam Alvey fight, I'd watch the Patolo fight, and I would watch the Phil Hawes fight, and also the Darren Stu. I'd watch every single one of his fights to see some aggressiveness from the Marquez side. He's very aggressive and he looks for that finish. 100% finish rate. Weezy, both guys have never won by decision, so that's very interesting as well. So we do see that Marquez is a favorite. Opened up minus 175, currently minus 225. We already talked about the fight doesn't go to decision. Minus 305 on 5 dimes. I'm hoping Bet Online does me a favor and gets that a little bit better there, but I think the fight doesn't go is a pretty safe spot. Potential parlay piece, if it's good enough, opens up on Bet Online or FanDuel. I might hit it straight. Under 2.5 alternate line is something looking really good as well. But even like the under 1.5, I do not see this going over the 1.5 mark. Any thoughts on the fight goes, fight doesn't go? Any thoughts on the money line? You already have a bet on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2 units on the Marquez money line at minus 210. And I've also got a 2-unit parlay where Marquez is one of the 2 legs in there. And I'm going to be looking, I was going to be looking to hit the fight doesn't go because I thought we might get it around minus 200, minus 225, but at minus 300, I think it's already baked in to the Marquez money line there anyway. You're getting better money on Marquez, but it also covers, and the thing about the right side is that Marquez has never been finished. Never. So, Christ, man, if Jordan Wright somehow wins a decision here, that would probably pay off. Like, it'd be like 8-10 to 1, maybe. But that might be his only path because I don't think you're getting him out of there. I mean, like I say, dude, if he somehow, if we figure out that, oh my God, Jordan Wright actually does have cardio, he can actually go 3 rounds, and if they just go through a war here, maybe he proves us wrong. I mean, we just saw Thiago Santos and Johnny Walker go 5 rounds and not touch each other for 25 minutes. So maybe this will be the second time that happens, and it's just a sure thing for fight doesn't go to decision, winds up, screwing everybody over. But I'm not on that side. I think it goes inside the distance, but right now you're getting minus 305 for fight doesn't go, and you can get Marquez at minus 200 on some of these sites. So just bet Marquez.
Yep, I like that. Blade saying he averages only 40 strikes a fight. That's pretty much because he's getting controlled for a lot of his opponents, right? He's been controlled about 1/3 of his entire fight time in Julian Marquez, right, Weezy?
40 strikes per fight, but 9.31 significant strikes attempts per minute, and his opponents are only averaging 6.96. So not only is he showing good volume just on the aggregate for the division, but he's out voluming his opponents, about 9.3 to 7. So yeah, Marquez's volume is there, and he's landing a knockdown on almost 1% of the significant strikes that he's landed. So yeah, I wouldn't say that he's low volume. There's a lot of middleweights and light heavyweights that have a lot lower volume than 9.31 per minute. But Wright is throwing more at 11.81.
Yeah, what's up, Hype MMA? The boys, Uncle Weezy and Brady, always grinding. Appreciate you for hanging out. Hype, I say we move on to the next fight, but yeah, I really do like Marquez there quite a bit. We have
Yeah.
Manon Fiorot going against Mara Bueno Silva. We have Fiorot, who is 31 years old, 5'7" with a 65-inch reach. Mara Bueno Silva, 30 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. So Fiorot is going to have a 1-inch height advantage. She's going to be 1 year older, but she's going to have a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Manon Fiorot, she is 5-0 in her last 5 fights. Her very first loss came in her MMA debut against Leah McCourt. Fiorot did make her UFC debut against Victoria Leonardo. She finished her in that first round, and then she did finish Tabitha Ricci, I believe, in the second round there. As far as Mara Bueno Silva, she is 3-1 in a draw in her last 5 fights. She did beat Mayana Kalim by submission, a submission win over Jillian Robertson, a decision loss to Marina Moroz, and a submission win over Mara Morella Barella, and then a draw against Montana De La Rosa. I think this is a very interesting matchup in the fact that you take a look at Manon Fiorot, her striking is unbelievable. It's phenomenal. Very good striker. She's improving, rapidly each and every fight. Her takedown defense looks a lot better. She lost her very first fight against Leah McCourt up a weight class, where McCourt was able to take her down, here and there and control her in a very close fight. And I guess what I was worried about, Uncle Weezy, prior to going into it and researching this fight, which we already researched a while ago, was the fact that if Mara Bueno Silva gets this fight down to the mat, I do have some concerns. Mara Bueno Silva is a phenom on the mat. I mean, she has multiple submissions, a submission win over Mara Morella Barella, a submission win over Jillian Robertson. She got that submission win over Kalim as well on the Contender Series, I believe it was. And if this fight hits the mat, I'm going to be, very concerned, especially if I have a Fiorot ticket in my hand. And then I go and look at the stats and I watch the tape, and Mara Bueno Silva has attempted 0 takedowns. And I think that's huge. 0 takedowns attempted. She's never attempted one yet in the UFC or on Contender Series. So if this fight's going to stay standing for 15 minutes, it's really hard to favor Mara Bueno Silva in a fight like that. She's very dangerous anywhere the fight goes. If the fight does hit the mat, it's definitely going to get sketchy, but she doesn't really try to get it there. And I think it's going to kind of look like the Mara Bueno Silva fight against Marina Moroz in a way where Marina Moroz is able to, piece her up and outland her by quite a ton. She outlanded her 139-88. And it just showed how hittable Mara Bueno Silva is. She's very, very tough, but she's very hittable. A 47% striking defense. I think this is a really bad matchup for Marina Moroz here, for Mara Bueno Silva here. I mean, I think if she does not get takedowns, it's going to be a tough night at the office for her. So, Uncle Weezy, you feeling the same way, or what are you leaning here?
Oh, absolutely. Fiorot has just been, she's so good. She's killed everybody that she's fought so far, and it's not her fault that she hasn't fought competition on her level yet. She takes the fights that she's given. Moroz backed out. The last one didn't go down. I don't remember whether it was Fiorot or Silva's corner that tested positive. I think it was Fiorot. But, the numbers are video game numbers in these 2 fights thus far against Leonardo and Ricci. But, we have to, obviously temper our expectations simply because neither of those ladies are on Mara Bueno Silva's level, plain and simple. Fiorot has fought a very low level of competition so far, but at least her pre-UFC competition was against ladies with winning records. This isn't going to be close on the feet. Fiorot's too long. She's got that karate style, which keeps her out of range of her opponent's strikes. If you look right now, Manon Fiorot, 8 significant strikes landed per minute, only 1.98 absorbed. So she's landing 4 significant strikes for every 1 that her opponent lands. She's landing with 50% striking accuracy and is showing 80% striking defense. That 80% striking defense is that high because of that karate style that she has. She can hit you when you can't hit her. And while Silva's got a 1-inch reach advantage, she's not going to be the bigger, longer fighter here. Fiorot's an inch taller, and the reach is 1-inch difference for Silva. So this is going to be a really problematic matchup for Mara Bueno Silva, who has attempted 0 takedowns. That is in a 5-fight sample size, and that's a problem because that's a trend. She's not just going to all of a sudden start wrestling, now. She could have wrestled Moroz. She could have wrestled De La Rosa. She could have wrestled Barella, Robertson, or Kellum. She didn't do that. She didn't not one takedown attempt, and she's been controlled for 47% of her UFC cage time while only getting 5% control time on the ground. So it's just not her game. And if she's gonna stand up against a karate style striker with much more experience in the striking game than Silva has, and with somebody who lands 4 significant strikes for every one that she absorbs, and is landing with tremendous power and is finishing at an 86% clip, while Mayra Bueno Silva only has 1 knockout win on her record. Manon Fiorot has 6. It's Silva's getting finishes via submission. So how does she get the fight to the ground unless Manon brings it there? That's a good question. And Manon Fiorot has shown a decent get-up game in her own right. If you go back and you watch the Leah McCourt fight, she won that fight. I mean, I don't know why the judges saw that for McCourt. McCourt did absolutely no damage. And every time McCourt took down Fiorot either got back up or reversed position. So, and landed the way heavier strikes there. And that was up a weight class too. So, I just see this being Manon all day. She is the second leg of my parlay. I have a 2-unit parlay on the money lines for Fiorot and Marquez. And then I additionally smashed the Fiorot line for 2 units at -190. I've got a total of 6 units down.
Boom.
2 on Marquez, 2 on Fiorot, and 2 on the Fiorot Marquez parlay. I'm just a big fan of Manon here. This is the step up in competition that she deserves. And I believe she's going to handle it with class and show that she's one of the best strikers in the 125-pound division. I think the arrow's pointing up straight for her. And I think she's going to open a lot of eyes on Saturday against some high-level competition in Bueno Silva.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I'm high on Fiorot as well, and this is a matchup where it just seems like it's a great matchup for her. I mean, if Silva's not going to attempt any takedowns, is she going to win? It's very tough ask. Is she going to knock out Fiorot? Struggling to find a path to victory outside of Silva getting her down to the mat, and it's not something she does. So, yeah, I think it's a solid matchup for Fiorot. Headley One brings up a good point, though. Manon was -250. I did notice that. For her last fight, it was canceled. You get a discount here at -190 because she had COVID. So, yeah, the line movement on this one was weird. I saw it go down to -170 the other day, back to a -200 here. So, yeah, I think Manon is definitely the side here. We see that she is a favorite opening up -220. She got all the way down to -175, and now she is back down to -220. As far as Mayra Bueno Silva, she opened up +185. She got all the way down to +150. She is now back to +185. The fight goes to decision, is sitting at +115. The fight doesn't go to decision, is sitting at -155. The over 2.5 rounds is sitting at -145, and the under 2.5 rounds is sitting at +115. Both of these fighters are extremely, extremely dangerous. Fiorot, very dangerous. All her wins come by knockout. Bueno Silva, I think she has maybe 1 decision win on her record. The rest are all by submission. I think she has 1 knockout as well. But the problem is both fighters have never been finished. Both fighters are very, very tough, but both are finishers. So I'm kind of up in the air on if the fight will go or doesn't go. I could very well see Manon potentially hurting her at some point and finishing her. But with that said, Silva does seem like she's a very tough fighter. So any lean on the fight goes or fight doesn't go, I probably lean towards the under, but not with a ton of confidence.
Yeah, I'm not touching that because Fiorot is so good on the feet that I think she could actually be the first person to finish Silva. But we also know how dangerous Silva is on the ground. And if this thing winds up there, Manon, that's not her pedigree. She is very good with her Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and she's got some wrestling too. You go back and you watch the pre-UFC footage on Manon. She's getting takedowns. She can get them when she wants them. She is a well-rounded mixed martial artist, but this is just different on the feet. And I can't touch the time props because Manon is just way too dangerous. I do think it probably goes to decision, but they're both too dangerous to bet a decision prop on this fight or an over. And I just won't do it.
Yep, Kyle Bunga saying, I've been high on Manon for a while, still am, but I have a bad feeling about this one. Silva is a huge step up in competition compared to her last 3 fights, and you are 100% right. This is a big, big step up. This is going to be her first true test in her entire career, but just seems like a stylistic matchup that she can pass. I mean, with Silva, if she's not going to go for takedowns here, I think it's going to be a tough night for her. So,
and let me just say one thing too, because it is a huge step up in competition, but the only thing that you can ask is that somebody handles those steps down with class. And Manon is kicking the shit out of everybody that she beats. I mean, these aren't close fights. They aren't wars. They're one-sided ass shavings. And it's probably going to be this, so this is a big step up, but there's a reason why people aren't fighting this woman. There's a reason why people aren't picking up the phone when they say Manon Fiorot is going to be on the other end. So yeah, dude, that's what I have to say about that.
100%. I mean, yeah. But I guess one other thing that stuck out is I think Manon Fiorot opened up like -110 against Victoria Leonardo. I think it was Dan in the Discord pointed that out. I ended up betting Fiorot, I think, around like -140, -150 against Leonardo. She closed around -180. It is kind of weird seeing her, this big of a favorite compared to against Victoria Leonardo, where she's like -180. She's now like -220 now. But, I think the hype is built into the line, and I think the hype's warranted. A lot of times, Weezy, I like to hate on the hype, but sometimes I think the hype's warranted. Guys like Tom Aspinall, guys like Chris Dawkins, guys like Manon Fiorot, I think these people are the real deal where, fighters like Dern, fighters like that, I think the hype is not as warranted. So we will move on to the next fight. And Headley One saying, "Oh, Weezy almost gave away his ass shaving." Oh, you have to find out. Weezy will be going live Tuesday to give out his ass shaving, and of course, a greasy parlay. So we'll move on. So we have Jim Miller going against Erick Gonzalez. We have Jim Miller, who is 38 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Erick Gonzalez, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. So Erick Gonzalez is going to have some advantages in terms of the tail of the tape. He is going to be 9 years younger. He's going to have a 3-inch height advantage, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage as well. So looking at their last few fights, Erick Gonzalez is making his UFC debut. He is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. No contender series for him, going straight to the UFC here, going against Jim Miller, who is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss against Joe Solecki, a decision loss against Vince Pichel, a submission win over Roosevelt Roberts, a decision loss against Scott Holtzman, and a submission win over Clay Guida. So what kind of sticks out to me when you think of Jim Miller? You think of a round 1 finish, basically, because when Jim Miller has been winning as of late, it has been in the first round. So he did finish Roosevelt Roberts in the first round a couple fights ago with an armbar. He finished Clay Guida in the first round back in 2019. Finished Jason Gonzalez in the first round 2019. He finished Alex White in the first round back in 2018. And outside of that, those 4 in the first round, he had not won by decision since 2016 against Thiago Alves. So, yeah, I mean, this is a fight, Weezy, where I think it's going to be a levels fight. Jim Miller is getting up there in age, but you take a look at or Erick Gonzalez, and I just don't think he's ready. I don't think he offers a ton. What he is, though, he's very, very tough. I know a lot of people were like these tough fighters. He's very tough. He's very gritty. He comes forward. He comes with heart. He throws strikes, and he's okay. I just don't think he's the level of a Jim Miller who's fighting guys like Joe Solecki, guys like Vince Pichel, guys like Scott Holtzman, Clay Guida, guys like that. And even better names throughout his career as well. And then I guess the biggest hole I saw in Erick Gonzalez's game, which why we do see that Miller is a favorite, is going to be the takedown defense. Like, this guy can be taken down, and he can be taken down pretty easily. I saw the Rafa Garcia fight with him where Garcia took him down at like a good 5, 6, 7 times pretty easily in that fight. And basically, Weezy, if Jim Miller gets you down in round 1, you're going to be in some serious trouble, and that's kind of where I'm leaning here. Anything stick out to you on this one?
Yeah, Erick Gonzalez has 5 career losses, and 2 of them are by submission. Yeah. And Jim Miller has 32 career wins, and I think 18 of them are by submission, so there's a path there. But, you look at Gonzalez, and he's got a 57% finish rate by knockout, and Jim Miller's been knocked out a time or two. But, Miller, 40 of 93 on his takedown attempts, 43%, very efficient with his wrestling. And we do know that he's very dangerous on the ground. So there's definitely a path here. And if you're telling me that Erick Gonzalez's takedown defense has not looked good on the regional scene, then this is going to be a very difficult first 7.5 minutes for him to get through. Because, Miller does get takedowns over a 37 fight sample size. We got a 43% takedown accuracy, 1.63 takedowns per 15 minutes, 23% control time. And in those 21 UFC wins, we've got 11 of them coming by submission. So there's definitely that path for Jim Miller to win by submission.
Ooh.
And frankly, that's how I would bet this, right? Because if we're seeing a hole in Gonzalez's game with the grappling, and you don't really, you could get plus money now for Jim Miller's best win condition and for Erick Gonzalez's worst loss condition. That's a pretty good thing. But then, we got to look at Gonzalez being 9 years younger, 3 inches taller, having a 3-inch reach advantage here, having some legitimate power, winning 8 of his 14 wins coming by knockout. But, the level of competition, Yoel Jimenez and Milko Tukto and Oziel Rodriguez Lopez, it doesn't really add up to the kind of competition that Jim Miller has been facing and beating. So, I'm going to go with Miller here. And I'm going to pick him to win by submission.
Yep, that's probably how he wins. I guess the concern I have, Weezy, which you brought up a good point, that if you want to bet Miller, you probably bet him inside the distance. You probably bet him by decision. I don't know if I touch that money line, because the thing with Miller is if he does get out of the first round, I have some serious concerns about his cardio, because he slows down a lot. And Gonzalez, he's not great. He's pretty low level, but what he does bring is a pretty crazy pace. Lots of toughness. He's going to come forward for 15 minutes. So I could see a scenario where, maybe Jim Miller does, have success in that first round. He does slow down. Maybe Gonzalez wins the next 2. I could see a scenario like that. But just with seeing how easily Gonzalez is able to be taken down several times, Miller, I think, one takedown that could be about it. Like, Miller is extremely, extremely dangerous. So yeah, I like Miller. I like him to win in round 1, but I just don't know if I touch the money line because of, the age and because of the potential cardio issues, as well, as we do see him slow down after that fight does leave round 1. But we do see that Jim Miller is a favorite here. And Jim Miller opened up as a minus 185 favorite. He is currently minus 185. Erick Gonzalez opened up as a plus 160 dog. He is currently plus 160. The fight goes to decision. This is interesting. The fight goes to decision is minus 180. The fight doesn't get to decision is plus 140. Any thoughts on the Miller money line minus 185, or the fight goes or fight doesn't go?
Yeah, I'm just, God, I don't think I could get to minus 185 for a 38-year-old Jim Miller, against anybody. But when you look at it by sub, that changes everything, because then, you might be getting plus 200. Who knows, and I think that's his path. So when you have a guy like Jim Miller, and then you have somebody like Gonzalez who has a hole in his game with the grappling, the plus money on the fight doesn't go is also a little bit interesting, because who knows if we haven't seen Jim Miller do much in the second round or in the third round of any fights that have gotten past the first. So maybe Gonzalez has some success with the striking late. He'll be the longer, more powerful striker here. And Jim Miller is a lefty. Gonzalez is an orthodox fighter, so that'll open up the power hand and the power kicks for Gonzalez. So, plus 140 for fight doesn't go is kind of interesting to me. Miller by sub is kind of interesting to me, but other than that, nothing's really jumping off the page here.
Yeah, depending on the line, I might take a shot at Miller by round 1 submission, Miller in round 1, Miller by sub, something like that. If the odds are right. Dave's saying draw. I could see a potential draw, right? Miller 10-8. Gonzalez 2-3 plus 6,000, maybe worth a poke. We'll see. We'll talk about it on Best Bet, Weezy. Maybe a draw 6 out there on Saturday. So yeah, should be a good fight. Newcomer and Gonzalez, veteran and Jim Miller should be a nice one there. All right, next we're going to get to the co-main event. Yes, you heard it right. This is the co-main event. Andrei Arlovski going against Carlos Felipe. We have Arlovski, who is 42 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. Carlos Felipe, he is 26 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. So Felipe is going to be a lot younger. He's going to have a 3-inch height disadvantage and a 2-inch reach disadvantage as well. Take a look at the last few fights. Andrei Arlovski is 3-2 in his last 5. A knockout loss against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, a decision win over Philippe Lins, a decision win over Tana Bozer, a submission loss to Tom Aspinall, and a decision win over Chase Sherman. As far as Carlos Felipe, made his UFC debut against Sergey Spivak, lost a decision. He beat Jorgen De Castro. I think that was a co-main event as well, which was crazy and probably the worst co-main event ever. And he won that fight, or maybe it was a Justin Taffa. No, I think it was the De Castro fight. And then he won a decision over Justin Taffa, and then he won a decision over Jake Collier. And yeah, this one, this is a tough one because originally I thought I was going to be betting Carlos Felipe, but after digging into it, I kind of want to stay as far away from this fight as possible. Anything sticking out to you on this one, Weezy?
How about the fight goes to decision?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like Felipe, we've got 4 decisions in his 4 UFC fights. And really, Arlovski's not finishing a glass of water at this point in his career. 42 years old. He hasn't knocked out anybody since I think before you were born. And he was fighting then, believe me. So yeah, it's, the fight goes to decision, it's like minus 145 right now. That's not too bad. I see this fight, seeing the scorecards, as far as betting aside, no chance in hell, dude. Even when Felipe loses, he wins on the judges' scorecards. And we've seen that happen with Arlovski. This is going to be a close fight. It's going to go to some judges that you hate, and they're probably going to pick the guy that you didn't bet on. So I think the best thing to do is bet that the fight goes to decision, take the judges out of it, because this is going to be just a really, really close heavyweight fight. And if you look at what the bookies are saying, they got this as a pick 'em, right?
Yeah, should be a pick 'em, man.
Pick 'em. It's a pick 'em. So who wins? I don't know. Flip a coin. I like the blonde hair of Carlos Felipe, and the fact that, he's won fights he shouldn't have even won. I mean, it was a majority decision against Sergey Spivak. Spivak beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds, 10-8'd him in the 3rd round. I mean, I don't even know how he got a majority decision there. That should have been like 30-26. That fight was 30-26, and he was up on one of the judges' scorecards there. And one of the judges had it, it was bizarre, dude. Didn't make any sense. So I would pick Felipe because the judges have been nice to him. He's got a beautiful head of blonde hair. And Arlovski's 42, probably the better technical. Well, yeah, definitely the better technical striker. Longer, taller, more experienced, better finisher. But yeah, dude, I'm not betting the side. I would just say that this thing goes to decision for sure.
Yeah, I do want to say shout out to Big Steve here for the dono, saying thanks for the hard work. Legends, appreciate you, Big Steve. Thank you for hanging out, and thank you for the dono. But yeah, this fight really frustrates me because originally I thought I was going to be betting Felipe, but after getting into it, you take a look at Andrei Arlovski, like who is he losing to in the last few couple of years, right? Tom Aspinall, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Augustus Sakai, Walt Harris, Shamil Abdurakhimov, Tai Tuivasa, Marcin Tybura, Francis Ngannou. Is Carlos Felipe like anywhere near any of those guys? Like
nope.
not even close.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 40. What is he? 43, 42 years old. This is a fight that I feel like you broke it down perfectly. Flip a coin. That's your winner. Like this is going to be a very close fight. This is going to go to decision. You can't trust the judges. I want nothing to do with this fight. You take a look at Carlos Felipe. He's winning fights that he very well could be losing. Against Jake Collier, he did more, showboating than actually throwing punches in that fight. Jake Collier outlands him by a ton. He outlands him by 36 strikes. He gets outlanded 130. Collier lands 130 to Felipe's 94. Collier outlands him 54-41 in the 3rd round.
Yep.
It's great. Even it's Justin Tafa. Carlos Felipe gets outlanded by Justin Tafa. Tafa outlands him 86-77. So, I like a lot of the things that Carlos Felipe does bring to the table. I like his output. I like his cardio in terms of heavyweights. I like his takedown defense as well. I like a lot of things, but I don't like the showboating. I don't like that. It's gonna be a close fight. It's gonna be a very close fight. Flip a coin. I guess I'm going to stick with Carlos Felipe, the younger fighter. I'm going to say he does out-volume Andrei Arlovski, but it's just such a sketchy fight, man. But I think where the money is going to be at for this fight is going to be on that fight goes to decision in the over 2.5. So we do see the Andrei Arlovski open up minus 160. He's now minus 115. Carlos Felipe open up plus 140. He's now minus 105. It is a pick 'em on some books as well. It's a close fight. We see that the over 2.5 rounds, I know it's weird, saying a heavyweight fight's going to go over and at the over is juiced even at 2.5. But yeah, it's over 2.5 is minus 180. The under 2.5 is plus 150. I see the fight goes to decision is minus 145, and the fight doesn't go to decision is plus 105. So Yeah, I think I know your thoughts on the money line. Probably it's a big pass there, but any
Yeah.
thoughts on the over under? You're on the over, right? And the fight goes.
Yeah, yeah. If that fight goes to decision, opens up at like minus 150, yeah, I'll throw 1.5 units to win one on that for sure. I feel real good about it. Carlos Felipe's got a head like an Easter Island statue. You're not knocking that dude out, dude. I mean,
No.
come on. You've seen some of the shots that he's taken too, and he just smiles at people. He's got that Homer Simpson head. So, and then Arlovski's, he's technically sound. He's got a good 57% striking defense over, a 35 fight sample size. He's very good. So I see this fight going to decision, and doing it fairly easily. I'd be shocked if either one of these guys wound up on the canvas.
Yeah, because Andrei Arlovski hasn't had a knockout since like 6 years ago. I think it was the last one. And then
Yeah.
Carlos Felipe, I don't think he has any knockout standing. I think a lot of his knockdowns are either against bums like that gas out, or they're like a TKO, which it's not going to happen against Andrei Arlovski, right? Doesn't seem like he really hits hard for a heavyweight. The volume's there. I don't think the power is there for Felipe or really either guy. So, and then the durability of both guys. Andrei Arlovski's been knocked out a ton. But he hasn't been knocked out in a while. And when he does get knocked out, it's by guys like Jairzinho Rozenstruik. It's by guys like Francis Ngannou, guys like that. And Overeem, and Felipe is not Francis Ngannou, obviously, right? So, yeah, I think the fight goes to decision is going to be a really solid bet. I'm going to keep my eye open for that one. And me, Weezy, I don't really typically ever bet overs or fight goes to decisions, but this one definitely sticks out to me.
Yeah, me too. And I'm just looking at the advanced stats here. The last time that Andrei Arlovski scored a knockdown in the UFC, it was 2015. Yeah, that's a long time ago, dude. And that was against Travis Brown. And since then, it's been like 15 fights so that he hasn't had a knockdown. And Carlos Felipe's never landed a knockdown in all 4 of his UFC fights. So, yeah, that's a bet that's sticking out to me. And I would like to hit that at minus 150 or better for 1.5 units.
Yeah, looks like we're on the same page there. But I say we get into the main event now. We have, I cannot believe this is a main event, but it is. It definitely is a main event. We have Aspen Ladd going against Norma Dumont. We have Ladd, 26 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Norma Dumont, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Aspen Ladd was supposed to fight Mayra Chiasson a few weeks ago, had a tough weight cut. She missed weight by a pound, and apparently Mayra Chiasson declined the fight, which was weird. If I was Mayra, I would definitely take that fight. I did think Ladd would probably be compromised after she looked horrible on the scales. But regardless, Aspen Ladd stepping in for a short notice for Holly Holm, which, by the way, I had Holm all day over Dumont. But this is a completely different fight here. We have Dumont. Dumont's been looking decent. She beat Felicia Spencer in a fight where Spencer had one of the most questionable game plans of the year, in a fight where Spencer actually attempted 0 takedowns in that fight. And as we know, Spencer is a grappler, right? So you'd think the grappler would try to take down Norma Dumont, but that did not happen. Spencer tried to outstrike Dumont, and it did not work out for her. She did have success in that 3rd round, though, when Dumont did slow down. As far as Ashley Evans-Smith, she beat her by decision. She looked really good there, showed off her striking, and then she got knocked out by Megan Anderson in her UFC debut in the 1st round. So she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. As far as Aspen Ladd, 4-1 in her last 5 fights as well. A knockout win over Lena Landsberg, knockout win over Tanya Evinger, a decision win over Ciara Eubanks, a knockout loss to GDR, and then a knockout win over Yana Kunitsukaya. So, Uncle Weezy, I say we get into the stats for this one here.
Yeah, the wins are just way more impressive right now for Ladd. That's for sure. That's what we're seeing. That Spencer fight, I had money on Spencer, and that was one where you're throwing shit at the TV going, will you please, try a takedown? And no, Norma Dumont in 3 UFC fights has only faced 3 takedown attempts. So it's hard to know what's going to happen when somebody like Ladd, who really is going to need to get this fight to the ground, and Ladd, Ladd's just not stupid. That's the problem. Felicia Spencer, I don't know what happened there, but the problem with that fight, Brady, for me was that Felicia Spencer almost won it. It was a close fight. That was a split decision. I thought Felicia actually was going to get the nod there. It was a very, very, very close fight. And Norma Dumont's done an excellent job of keeping her fight standing where she's most comfortable and winning those fights, when she doesn't get knocked out by Megan Anderson, who's a fantastic striker. but Aspen Ladd has a 75% takedown accuracy. She's getting 2.45 takedowns for 15 minutes. And when she gets these takedowns, she's accruing a ton of control time. Her control time right now is about 18 minutes out of 36.8 minutes in the cage. That's 18 minutes of control time on only 8 takedown attempts and on 6 takedowns. So that's a lot. You know, I mean, we're talking about something about 3 minutes of control time per takedown. And Norma Dumont's really only been controlled for 10% of her UFC career, and none of it's on the ground because she's never been taken down. So this is going to be a very interesting fight. Can Aspen Ladd up a weight class, use the same wrestling heavy attack, expect to get takedowns, expect to hold her opponent down? Well, the problem is that Aspen Ladd's the favorite, and we haven't seen it yet. Norma Dumont has got a very sturdy lower half, Brady. I know that most MMA fans have not noticed this, but she's got an ass on her. And the ass is where the power comes from in terms of stopping takedowns, in terms of having a good base and moving well, and in terms of, kind of spreading out that base when somebody does shoot takedowns. Good, strong legs go a long way in keeping the fight standing. And Norma has that in spades. So this is a big stay away from me here, because even though I am leaning Aspen Ladd here, I don't have any information about how she's going to fare at 145. I don't have any information about how her wrestling attack is going to translate up a weight class against a much bigger opponent than she's seen in ladies like Kunitskaya, Eubanks, who's really a natural 125er, Tanya Evinger. She was probably 40 when she fought Evinger, and then Landsberg. So, it's a tough one for me, man. Norma Dumont's striking numbers kind of jump off the page too, don't they? 5 significant strikes landed per minute, only 2.86 absorbed. So a +2 striking differential, 67% striking defense. And she's getting takedowns of her own. She's 4 of 10 in takedown attempts in 3 fights, 23% control time. So I can't get to a Ladd bet here. Maybe you can talk me into a Dumont bet.
Yeah, I don't know. I might take a shot on Dumont, depending on where the line goes. There's money just pouring in on Aspen Ladd. I just don't see how anybody can be confident enough to play Ladd as a favorite, especially like up a weight class. That's a huge question mark. How is she going to fare against a much bigger, thicker fighter in Dumont? Because when we're talking thickness, it is not even close. I mean, height and reach is close, but thickness, like Dumont is very, very thick. Like she is somebody that, cuts down to this weight class, where Aspen Ladd is big for the 135-pound weight class. She had trouble making the weight, but she's going to be small up here, right? And that's why she is cutting down to 135 to get that advantage over the other fighters. And I guess the other thing is, we don't have a ton of information. I thought the Felicia Spencer fight was a perfect scenario to find out more about Norma Dumont, because a lot of people don't know a lot about her, including me. There are still some question marks. I went back and watched every single one of her fights. She doesn't have much. I think I was able to watch 5 fights, and I did not see one instance where somebody took her down. I've seen people try to take her down. Her takedown defense looks really good. I've never seen her taken down. I've never seen her off her back. So with never seeing that, how can we be confident that Ladd's going to take her down? Ladd's going to have success on top. But what I have seen was, Dumont actually has some pretty solid wrestling herself. She has a Sambo background. I believe she's a Sambo black belt. She's a brown belt in BJJ as well. She's a very solid grappler, very well-rounded. I like her striking. Like her striking actually really surprised me, because I thought, because I thought she was a grappler at most. Just based off the fact that we saw her against Megan Anderson try to take her down, fights on the regional scene. She was taking down fighters and submitting her, but she goes out there against Ashley Evans-Smith, and that really surprised me, because she showed some phenomenal striking. She knocked down Ashley Evans-Smith at one point. She outlands her 94-42, and I'm like, where did that come from? And it's just because there's so much question marks about Dumont. There's not a lot of tape out there on her. And we still didn't get any questions answered, because Felicia Spencer did not try to take her down. So I'm still like, how's her takedown defense? We don't know. We really don't know how good it is. It looks good. It looks good, but I'd like to see, a Felicia Spencer try to take her down. Everything for me checks out and on the Dumont side. I think she's going to have a striking advantage. I think she's going to be the bigger fighter. She's a really good grappler in her own right, a brown belt in BJJ. I guess the one thing I did not like was in the third round against Felicia Spencer, where Norma Dumont was able to take down Spencer, which is very impressive. Took down the black belt and Spencer was able to control her. But at one point late in that third round, she went for another takedown and she kind of just fell on her back, kind of gave up, it looked like, in that third round. And maybe it was because she thought she was up 2 rounds, but still, you don't want to see that. And she looked really tired in that third round. And I guess that's kind of what's holding me back from, making a bet here on Dumont is, what is she going to look like in round 3, 4, and 5? And even then, like, what's Aspen Ladd going to look like if it goes later into the fight with a horrible weight cut last week and maybe cutting weight again this week? So yeah, it's a tough fight to call, but I feel more comfortable with the plus money shot on Dumont than laying minus 160 on Ladd. And I can almost assure you that this line is going to keep getting wider and wider as the week goes on, because still a lot of people don't even know who Norma Dumont is. And we still don't know a lot about her. We still have a lot of question marks about her. So I might take a flyer on Dumont, depending on where the line goes later in the week. I see just money pouring in on Aspen Ladd. So Ladd opens up a minus 160. She goes all the way down to a pick of minus 110. She is now down to minus 158. As far as Norma Dumont, she opens up plus 140. She goes down to minus 110 pick 'em. She is now at plus 138. I'm going to wait it out. I kind of want to see weigh-ins as well. I want to see how much bigger, how much thicker Norma Dumont looks than Ladd. I want to see what Ladd looks like at this 145-pound weight class on the scales. I always want to see Ladd on the scales because, my goodness, she's been having some trouble, but you got to think she's not going to have trouble here. So I want to see her on the scales. I want to see her matched up as, next to Dumont, see how they size up. And if the line keeps getting wider, I might take a shot on Dumont. Again, there's question marks, right? There's question marks, but when there's question marks, I'd rather be on the plus money than the minus money, especially minus 160 here. The fight goes to decision. It's sitting at minus 175. The fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at plus 135. The over 2.5 rounds is sitting at minus 250. The under 2.5 rounds is sitting at plus 200. Tricky. It's tricky in terms of the fight goes or fight doesn't go. I could see a scenario where Ladd does get Dumont down at some point, and Ladd is very dangerous on top. Her ground and pound is next level. So I could see that. I could see Dumont maybe stopping Ladd on the feet. Dumont hits pretty hard, and we have seen Ladd knocked out before. So I don't know. But the lean for me is Dumont, especially at this price tag. I'm going to wait it out. In terms of the fight doesn't go or fight goes, I'm not really going to mess around with that. Any strong lean on the fight goes or fight doesn't go for you?
Well, for a 5-round fight to get plus money on fight doesn't go at plus 135, that's intriguing to me because Aspen Ladd's a great finisher. Aspen Ladd has finished 7 of her 9 pro wins. So, and we've never seen either of these ladies go 5 rounds before. As a matter of fact, we saw Norma Dumont get tired after a 3-round striking battle with a grappler in Felicia's. God, I'm so bitter about that, Brady. I hate that when that comes through because I'm supposed to be a professional here. I'm supposed to be, let's go to Uncle Weezy. He's going to give us the stats. And I just keep talking about how I'm butthurt about how Spencer didn't even try any takedowns and it cost me 1.5 units. And it's hard for me to get over it. But, I like the plus money on the fight doesn't go. I think there's some decent value there. It might be worth a sprinkle. Ladd is really good on top. And like you say, we don't know what Dumont looks like on the bottom, do we? Because nobody's trying to take her down. Only 3 takedown attempts against in 3 fights, and none of them have been successful. So if Aspen Ladd does get on top, we could see her finish. She's finished 6 of her 9 wins inside the distance by knockout, and she's got a sub as well. And she's been knocked out. She got knocked out by Jermaine Durandamy. So plus money seems like a little bit of a gift for a 5-round fight when neither of these ladies have ever fought 5 rounds. So that might be the best way to play this fight because right now the line is I feel like it's exactly where it should be, where there's no value on either side.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. Like last week we had Dern Rodriguez. The fight doesn't go to decision, close around minus 300. Which is crazy there. But yeah, we're getting this at plus money. So yeah, I don't hate that look as well. But yeah, I'm going to sit back and see where that line does go. I want to see the weigh-ins. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning Dumont. But again, like question marks on both sides. How is Dumont's cardio going to look like in rounds 3, 4, and 5? Is Aspen Ladd going to get down Dumont? If she can, great. That's awesome. She's probably going to win the fight. But if she cannot get down Dumont, it's going to be bad. It's going to be very bad on the feet. So yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to the fight. Looking forward to the card. You have 3 bets thus far. I have 1. I'll probably be joining you on a Fiorot bet in the near future. Going to kind of wait it out, see where that line goes. But yeah, anything else you'd like to add, Uncle Weezy?
Yeah, I'm going to be looking for a couple other bets here. For sure, Sanchez Silva fight doesn't go to decision. For sure, I'd like to get Arlovski Felipe fight does go to decision at -150 or better. But other than that, I think I'm pretty good for this card. I'm already a little bit deeper than I normally am at this point in the week, but you know, when you find spots, you got to hammer them, and that's exactly what I did. So definitely looking forward to seeing how the week progresses. I'd like to see Norma Dumont on the scales before I go after her, because I think she's going to try to push that 146-pound limit so that she is the much bigger, thicker woman here, and that she could potentially stop those takedowns against Ladd, because that's going to be her best path to victory. So I think we could see Norma Dumont being the last one to weigh in and coming in at like 146.5 or something like that. And, you know, if that's the case, I wouldn't want to have money on her, you know, not in a 5-round fight where she has a tough weight cut. So that would be something I'd wait for here on the main event, but I can't wait to hammer some of these time props as soon as they can become available.
Yeah, you know me, Weezy. I'm refreshing those props every single second. I'm always refreshing it, looking for them to put out the lines. Appreciate you, Chris. As always, Brady Weezy, much respect. Stay around and enjoy the game, everyone. Like and sub. Appreciate that, Chris. Yeah, if you guys can leave a like, that'd be much appreciated on your way out. Also, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me and Uncle Weezy will be going live once again on Tuesday for the DraftKings show. Cannot wait for that. Appreciate that, big boy. Smash the like button for these two goods. Appreciate you for hanging out. So Uncle Weezy, let them know where they can find you and what you have going on content-wise for this week.
Yeah, you can find me on Pub Sports Radio right here for Stat Diggers every week. Also on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Central Time for the DraftKings show that I do with Brady and Sparring with Reality Betting and AJ MMA Betting. And you can find me on my channel, Uncle Weezy, where I do balls deep breakdowns of fights. And every Tuesday after the Contender Series, I go live for a full card breakdown, my show Just the Tip, where I finish by giving you Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Other than that, I'd like to thank all of you guys for spending your Sunday evening with us. Time to go watch some football. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. And we can't wait to see you right back here on Tuesday on Pub Sports Radio, and then again on Sunday for Stat Diggers next week.
Sounds good, Weezy. Yep. If you guys can leave a like, subscribe, all the good stuff, go check me out on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. My full card breakdown and prediction video will be out on Tuesday morning or maybe Monday night, depending on how much I get done tomorrow. But yeah, looking forward to this week. Should be fun. Yeah, let's get after it. And thank you guys again for hanging out. We had a decent amount of people in here tonight, so thank you guys for that, especially on a card like this where we have Aspen Ladd, Norma Dumont as the main event, and Carlos Felipe under Arlovski as the co-main event. You guys are savages for hanging out on a Sunday for a card like this. That's crazy. But like last week, I think the card will deliver. Last week's card on paper looked like crap, but last week's card was good. I think this one could be about the same as well. So that's been it, guys. Good luck. Thanks again for hanging out. We will see you soon, and good luck for UFC.